This it was given me to know, that many worlds have been enslaved by the beast and his army, the Slayers. And this too was given me to know, that the beast would come to our world, the world of Krull, and his black fortress would be seen in the land. That the smoke of burning villages would darken the sky, and the cries of the dying echo through deserted valleys. But one thing I cannot know, whether the prophecy be true, that a girl of ancient name shall become queen, that she shall choose a king, and that together they shall rule our world, and that their son shall rule the galaxy.
Welcome back, friends.
Welcome back.
Hey, y'all.
Kate's here.
Yeah.
We're doing a special movie episode because Kate was like, oh my God, you guys are doing Krull. I'm doing Krull.
I have to do Krull. I have there's like a list. They have a spreadsheet of all of the movies that they would like to cover at some point. And there's several that I'm like, don't do that one without me. Don't do that one without me. There's a few that I want to be there for that one.
Yeah. And now we're doing Krull,
Yep.
which was released in 1983.
I was the only person in this room born when it came out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because y'all were born what years?
I was born in 84.
85.
Yeah, I was 83, and I was, I think, 6 months old when this movie came out.
So you saw it in theaters.
I did. My first one. It was my first theater experience.
Well, no wonder.
And it made
Yeah.
an impact.
Explains a lot.
That's why it's so nostalgic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good movie. It's Star Wars in a fantasy world, but it's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's definitely a response to Star Wars. Like, oh, we can do these large fantasy epics in space.
We can give these movies giant budgets.
Yeah.
But then make sure that there's very important pieces of it that we're going to put no budget to.
Yeah.
Like choreography and writing.
Like, no, it's fine. If we have good enough costumes, people will come.
Yeah.
It'll be
If
fine.
the set design and the cinematography is good enough,
Yeah.
and they had 23 sets on 3 sound stages.
Right.
This had a $30 million budget in 83.
Yeah. It was one of the most expensive movies made at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it came out.
And I just picture them in the I don't know, the producers, whoever's thinking about where we're going to put the money. And it's like, okay, so we could hire a choreographer, or we can have one single actor scale a mountain and do some helicopter overhead images. Or
Yeah.
maybe they use stock photo. I don't know. I feel like they didn't. So
No, he did.
Oh, no,
and he
they-
did all
they-
his own stunts. for
Yeah.
this.
He did.
Yeah.
yeah. And
Even the mountain climbing.
Even the mountain climb.
correct.
Yes.
And that is a
Yes.
stunning scene.
It is.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's beautiful. This movie is beautiful.
It doesn't make any sense, but it's beautiful.
The sets are great.
Yeah.
And the costumes, are you kidding? Like, it has this really, I feel like, for that time period and this type of movie, this very novel fantasy sci-fi, it's blending.
Yeah.
And it's done really well.
The real hero of this movie is the guy's pants.
Yeah, I was about to mention that.
Oh,
Torquil's
interesting.
His pants were so tight.
Wait, Torquil's
shiny.
pants?
Torquil's pants. Yeah, there's a part when he's in the
No,
beast.
not Torquil.
Yeah, oh no, Colwyn. Sorry.
Colwyn.
Okay, I was like,
Colwyn.
oh, wait.
I looked at you messed me with the board. Colwyn's pants.
I'm talking about the gray and black
Yes.
referee pants.
Yes.
I actually,
Colwyn's pants.
in my notes, that's like,
there's
With the
a
big
part.
pinstripes
There's a
down the
part in the
side.
beast
Yeah.
where he is full to frame, and he does his power stance, which he does throughout the entire movie. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I think he tucked.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I don't know where it would be.
yeah, I'm surprised he didn't add a roll of quarters. Was that not in style then? I'm not sure.
It's not. I mean, we looked. It's
Yeah.
not there. I was like, oh, okay. It was a choice.
Yeah, and
Right.
there are parts of this movie that are incredible. Like James Horner, ever heard of him?
Yeah.
Ever heard of him? Just to name off 4 out of this giant list: Willow, An American Tale, Aliens, Titanic, Avatar.
Yeah.
I mean, epic sound scores. Sound tracks.
Yeah, movie scores.
Movie
Yeah.
scores, like incredible.
Yeah.
And so I think the thing that I took with me and that feels the most nostalgic is the music.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, wow, if this plot matched the intensity and how beautifully done this music is, it wouldn't be so boringly beautiful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we're talking about Krull, in case anybody didn't catch that. Released in 1983. And before we go any further, hi, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Matt.
And I'm Kate.
And welcome to the Strange and Beautiful Book Club.
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Now we did it. I have a place to put the music. So this is a Peter Yates film.
Yeah.
Which the only other thing that he'd done that I recognized was Bullet. And
Like the movie, the Steve McQueen movie?
Yeah.
With the car?
Yeah.
This Mustang?
Yeah.
That beautiful green Mustang that goes over the hills of San Francisco?
That one.
That one?
Yeah, that Bullet.
I know that
I
one.
was like, how do you go from Bullet to Krull?
It's
Yeah,
a jump.
because that movie's about like chases. It's
Yeah.
a car chase movie.
Yeah.
And
it's
this
the car chase movie of the
this movie's
70s.
choreography is exceptionally poor.
I think you've mentioned that before.
I mean, that really stood out to me. And I'm not even an action girl. I don't even
Yeah.
like action movies. And I was just like, wow, they're really focusing on this main character
Yeah.
who did no training
For
For this.
Yeah.
Like, anyways, sorry.
Unless you count just in general, like there's a scene where he's shirtless and Matt was like, wow. 'Cause he did a lot of working out for this movie.
Yeah, perhaps, but like Pilates.
Yeah. Not
Right,
like
yeah, he didn't bulk up.
not like ninja warrior training.
Yeah.
He just
Something.
cut.
Yeah, like there's nothing about him that looks like. Well, I guess it is believable that he could scale that mountain like that. You know.
Yeah, he's wiry.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
Sure.
I just wouldn't expect him to like chuck rocks around or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Use a sword with any level of perceived efficiency.
Not powerfully.
Yeah.
No. But the swords they were using were a little like sci-fi looking. Well, that's the thing. We got the like swords and
It's
lasers.
a very odd blend of sci-fi.
Yeah, it's like a
and
fantasy
medieval
world, and
fantasy.
someone dropped in, like stormtroopers with blasters.
Yeah, and it was really inconsistency. Really inconsistent. Really like.
It gives us a surrealist setting because you're never quite sure. Are we in a sci-fi? But then all the sci-fi stuff, except for the lasers, feels very in keeping with the medieval setting. Like the spaceship is a mountain,
Yeah.
like a magic mountain.
But some of the costumes were like incredibly sci-fi, like
Yeah.
round, like the shapes were not medieval at all. They weren't grungy. They were like spherical and clean and neat.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
slayers.
like inside the castle.
And the
Yeah,
slayers.
in the castle. It
Yeah.
was the castle guards that had more of a sci-fi look than the slayers who kind of looked like armored orcs
yeah.
in a way.
Yeah. And then there's the part where one of them's head explodes and you find out they're aliens. They're like a bug creature
Yep.
thing.
Yeah,
inside
something
the suit.
skitters out
Okay,
and
so
digs
who-
into the ground.
So who's going to make the sound?
I was just going to sample it and put it that.
Yeah. Yeah, please.
I'll do it. I'll
Okay.
do it. I just
so
did it.
I thought it was really funny because I always watch with y'all do subtitles too, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
So the way that sound was described by the subtitle was twanging.
Twang.
I was like,
Twanging.
is that it?
No, it's more of a synthesizer scream, which is interesting because we used the London Symphony Orchestra for this music.
Is Ken Marshall, was the main character American or British?
I think he's British, but this is the only thing he's the main actor in ever.
Well, because they took a chance.
Well, Matt, I told
and you
Matt
know,
that.
it didn't pay off.
I told Matt that, and he goes, understandable, understandable. And so we had our own little rendition of Chicago.
Yeah, that's so funny.
But we open with an opening monologue, which is Ynir.
Exposition dump.
Yeah, an exposition dump. It's just Ynir talking about the prophecy, about the princess who will choose someone to marry. And
A princess with an old name.
yeah, and together they will rule the planet, and their children will rule the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which-
All right.
The
So
only
that's our
time you
setup.
need an exposition dump at the beginning is when your story and your dialogue isn't good enough to convey that during the movie.
Yeah, well, that would be accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, I love all due love to this movie, but if you didn't have that at the beginning,
Yeah,
I
but
wouldn't know why we were
You
doing
wouldn't have
what
no,
we were
you would
doing.
have no idea what's going
This
on.
movie is not good,
No,
but it is lovable.
it's good.
This
in
is
that
its
not
perfect.
good. Yeah,
It's a
We were
perfect
talking about it.
example.
It's entertaining.
Yeah, it's 40 years old.
yeah.
And if you, its birthday, its 40th birthday is this year, actually.
Aw.
I know
Happy
that because
birthday,
I
girl.
just turned 40. But there's so many things about it. I actually read a bunch of the reviews and I'm actually kind of surprised. Because as I was watching it, I was like, there are a lot of really, really good things about this movie.
Yeah,
And then there's the choreography.
there's some pretty good dialogue. I mean, there's some moments where I was like, oh, all right, okay, Krull.
Yeah, and part of it feel very on brand for that fantasy style. Like it's what, an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes. So it's not like you can really dig deep on certain things.
Yeah, it feels pretty long. It felt longer than that.
That's because it's boring.
Maybe they were inspired by the Star Wars, like Episode 4 sword fighting choreography, where they didn't really try.
Yeah.
Like Obi-Wan against Darth Vader.
Right. Where it was like
It was very
goosh,
stiff
goosh,
and
goosh.
just
Yeah.
bang,
And then straight
bang.
through the clothes and
I
the
thought,
pile
hey,
fell. Yeah.
Star Wars was a hit with that choreography.
We'll be fine.
We'll put the same amount of work into our choreography.
It's already Star Wars in space-ish. Star Wars I guess Star Wars is on another planet, but it's like the lone hero character who gets joined by the older...
But it's also kind of Lord of the Ringsy. It's
yeah,
like
it's the
Right.
hero's
a fellowship.
journey. It's
Yeah.
your standard hero's
Yeah.
journey. Yeah. We open with they're gonna get married because there's these apparently on this entire planet. There's only two.
No,
kingdoms.
Ken Marshall is American. That's what I thought. And his acting stood out. So you have these... Sorry, we're not there.
No,
you go ahead.
It's fine.
That's what I was... You have some really highbrow English actors.
Yeah.
And then this American who looks and acts like a 15-year-old boy, but with his fully bearded face, looks like a 28-year-old man.
He's 32 in this movie,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And he acts like a 15-year-old child.
and the actress who played Lissa, Princess Lissa, is like 19,
yeah. Okay.
and they dubbed her with a British voice. That's not her voice.
Interesting.
They just had her do all of her lines, and then they found somebody with a British accent, and they had her dubbed, so she'd have a British accent. Because they wanted an unknown American actress, but they didn't want her to sound American, which was
That's a choice.
I mean, it feels like a layer of complexity that you didn't need to have.
You know,
Right?
it just sounds like a studio run by a man.
Yeah. Well, because we didn't pick it, nobody in this movie is really well known when this comes out.
When it comes out,
Yeah. Now
Right.
there's quite a few big name people
Sure.
in it. But looking at it at the time, it would have been like a cast of
nobody's.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
kinda-
that's
a bit
really
like-
strange.
A bit like Stardust, where we had largely unknown actors, and then you have like Robert De Niro, who I think Ynir was well known at this time, the actor who played Ynir,
Yeah.
because he's in Dune this year or the next year. Because he's Twofer Howitt in Dune, the 80s Dune.
Yeah. That movie.
That movie. So that's a whole other one. But we open with a marriage. Anyway, look, there's two countries on this entire planet. Krull is like this side and the other
two
side.
countries important enough to mention.
Yeah. And they are our ancient enemies. But ancient. But since they each have Gen Z kids
Yep.
that are like, okay,
Who
boomer.
seem to know each other.
Yeah.
very well.
Except that's the first time they meet.
That doesn't make any sense.
Because she goes, "Oh, I have chosen well." And he's like, "I chose well too." And I was like, "Oh, Kate, fated mates."
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. And then she's like, my father told me a warrior makes a bad husband.
Yeah.
And you're just like, well, what does that even mean?
Yeah, that's what he says too.
I said it depends on what they're fighting for.
Yeah. Or like, but not necessarily. I mean, it just depends.
Yeah. Well, they meet and get married like on the same day. She's like, "We're going to get married at moonrise." And I know we're on another planet, but we don't spend a lot of time establishing that this is another planet. And we only occasionally get hints. We have the 2 suns, and then we have this weird marriage ceremony where he puts out the torch in the water.
No context.
And he's like, "I give the fire to the water." And he puts the torch out. But then in all the other scenes, his torch is lit again.
Yeah.
Point that out.
It's like they spent so much time on the effects and the cinematography and all that they completely forgot about
Having a
world
story.
building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
World building.
Because she's like, "I take the fire from the water," and she pulls her hand out, and there's fire in her hand. And Matt was like, "Wow, talk about Chekhov's rifle."
And then that becomes
Because immediately,
a Chekhov's right, but I actually forgot about it until
Yeah.
the end, and like they didn't give it enough oomph at the beginning of it for you to be like,
oh, that's going to be relevant.
yeah,
Because they get attacked before she can give the fire to him.
yeah,
So the Slayers show up. They're like climbing the castle walls. They have weapons that are lasers on one end and sword on the other, which just keeps us
Why
in
wouldn't
the...
you just keep shooting even at close quarters?
I don't know. Why
don't
charge if you're the only ones with distance weapons?
Right, just
Because-
stand back and mow them down.
'cause-
yeah. Why use your strength when you have dexterity like that?
Right. Because
know?
the Colwyn's crew doesn't have any, they don't have laser pistols. The only people that do are the Slayers. They could literally just stand on the wall and shoot everybody. They
Yeah.
don't have to get engaged
'Cause
in
they-
hand-to-hand combat.
Needed you to see those fight scenes where they're like,
Right, sword on sword is required
yeah,
in a fantasy movie.
Right. So they charge them, and then as soon as they get close enough, they flip their laser pistols around, and now they're swords. And so then we have sword fighting, which they're trying to be
They're-
like
The
action adventure.
action
The
adventure.
Slayers are not
It was
that
trying
good
to
at
be
sword fighting.
sword and sorcery, but with like a sci-fi twist. I don't know. It's a confusing. It's cool. I kind of like the laser pistol sword combination, but at the same time, I don't know. In the context of the whole rest of the movie, it just
The
ends up feeling
effects
confusing.
at that time were pretty cool. I mean, like the lighting, that lightning showing
Yeah.
up, like was novel then.
Right.
right.
Like it wasn't seen that often, and the light, like the different colors, and it's like, you know, we didn't get the force lightning for a long time after that.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I mean, I'm sure it had been
But
kind
it's
of
the
done before.
plausibility of the like combat tactics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
they definitely.
would it make sense to actually fight that way?
Well, it's like horses and machine guns in World War One.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like you have horses and then machine guns.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
They just hadn't figured it out yet. Maybe they had just gone through an age of technological advance. I mean, how long had the Beast been there?
The Beast just arrived on that planet.
Yeah.
So the Slayers had just come together.
Right.
It'd probably been a few months because
I think the Beast brought the Slayers with them.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe they were trying to, but it doesn't make sense to be a world conquering power to not know how to organize your laser guns.
Right. To me, this felt
Effectively.
very like we have a medieval society that's been invaded by aliens, and we don't have any underlying religious reason to make this anything other than an alien invasion. So they just take it all at face value. So you get to have this blend of medieval and alien invasion without having the like, there's absolutely no religious aspect to it too. Like, oh, this thing came from the stars. It's the beast. But they're not saying it's the beast like it's Satan the beast. It's literally just the beast because it's
Weird looking.
beast-like. Yeah. And so I think because it's like a mountain in space and there's no traditional, what we would think of as alien stuff. There's no like blinking lights. There's no flying craft. There's no nothing.
right, the mountain in space is moving itself somehow, but there's no like rockets on the back of it.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a
So it's
magical
like-
alien.
Yeah.
It's like the technology has become so advanced that it disappears
And
into the
becomes
structure
magic, yeah.
and it looks like magic.
Yeah.
Right.
I was thinking about that when I was watching it too. I was like, it's hard for me to imagine magical aliens. It's
Yeah.
like, I know magic and I know fantasy and I know sci-fi, but magical aliens?
Yeah.
Like where the technology is magic versus, like even in Marvel with Thor, like they make a comment about how, oh, this is just your science, but we know way more about it and we call it this thing.
Yeah.
In this, it's like, oh, we're supposed to, like the mountain when it blows up at the end just goes up into the sky.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because.
Just because.
Yeah.
That's what would happen.
That's what would happen. If you had a magical mountain that had an evil beast inside of it
Yeah.
and it blew up, it would fly upwards when it blew up. You know what? They made it up. They get to make up the rules.
They do. They
It's
do.
perfectly fine. The most sci-fi thing that we have are the lasers.
Yep.
Seriously. And we use them sparingly. So I think that's why this movie sometimes feels a little bit like, oh, what am I doing? Because there's not a neat little place you can put it. You can't be like, oh, these are all my fantasy. This is my fantasy movie. It's like, it's a little bit fantasy, but with lasers.
Right. It's like somebody wanted a like medieval versus sci-fi battle, and they were like, and it's kind of evenly matched. But I don't want to put the work into like the choreography and thinking about how that would actually.
It was like
how
Wing
would the
Commander.
dynamics of actually would that actually work? We're just gonna make the good guys be good enough, and the bad guys are like
Yeah, it wouldn't
so
work.
incompetent
Yeah.
that
I
they can
think
fight back with swords.
I think that's the thing. That's probably why critics hated this because it doesn't really work.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Right.
like super.
They were so focused on the end product that they didn't
right.
get the process down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they all get defeated, and Colin gets shot, and he's all sad and deadish, I guess. I don't know. So then the old one, Ynir, shows up with his magic salve, which fixes everything,
Yeah.
including death.
I love it when he just like rubs
he
it
just
up.
got,
Yeah.
Do you
just
think
got
he
shot in
kills
the
him?
shoulder.
He doesn't kill him. He just
No, I think he's he's mostly dead.
yeah.
Get brought back because Ynir just
What's so funny? Oh gosh, can I just tangent for a second?
Okay, go ahead.
There's this whole series, and I think they did it during the pandemic, where all these celebrities made short little scenes. Like celebrities did scenes from The Princess Bride,
Oh.
and so I watched them all the way through the other day. Which is why when you said mostly dead, because that's from The Princess
Yeah,
Bride, right?
yeah.
I was like, oh, I love that. I just watched that. Definitely recommend checking it out because Paul Rudd does like the best. What was the Dread Pirate Robinson?
Yeah,
Wesley.
Dread Pirate Roberts,
He does
yeah.
the best Wesley ever. So, anyways.
So Ynir shows up and he like spreads salve on this, I don't know, whatever, and he like puts it on his shoulder.
He also shames him for his feelings.
Yeah, and as soon as it touches his shoulder, he's like, "Oh my god!"
he's a
Later on, he's wearing his shirt again, and there's like a bloody hole on the front and the back.
Yeah, but he
So
only had to
it,
treat the
like,
front because
went
it's magic
all the way
salve.
through his whole shoulder.
Well, all I
Yeah.
had to do was touch him, and it woke him up.
yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, "My
And he
dad
took it off a
died,
day later,
and my wife
and
got
it was
kidnapped."
completely healed.
Yeah, he's like,
He's
"My
like, have you ever lost your dad and your wife in one day and your kingdom?
yeah," and Ynir's like, "Well, you got made king on the same day, so I don't know what you're crying about."
He's like, you need to get it together. We have stuff to do.
Yeah.
He's like emotionless, very
Yeah.
stoic.
He's the sage.
And then you've got this 15-year-old, 32-year-old man, this 32-year-old.
he
which
is very
so apparent. Like, he's,
Yeah. I don't know why they chose to go with a beard. They're like, you know what? We're going to make you look young but rugged at the same time. So I'm going to
maybe,
need you to be wiry and ripped with a beard and then
Well,
act like you're a child.
I mean, if we go and look at the like facial hair trends of the time, that might have been the most.
Yeah, that may
Trendy.
have been the sexy trend.
Yeah.
No,
At the
no, I think it
don't
might have
think so?
been the thing that looked the most sci-fi or fantasy.
Gotcha.
Like it
Gotcha.
was so not common. I mean, think
Right.
about it. I don't remember people wearing beards back then. I think they wore mustaches occasionally, but if like Star Wars, nobody
Alec
has.
it.
Guinness has a beard,
But he's the sage character.
but he's the
That's what I'm saying. I think
Lady Hawk,
the
everybody's
older-
clean shaven.
yeah.
RoboCop, not RoboCop. Blade Runner is right about now. Everybody's clean shaven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're all supposed to be robots. And robots don't like hair. We learned that. Murderbot told us.
Yeah, but even Harrison Ford's character is like smooth shaved.
But aren't we supposed to think he might be a robot?
Turn
Yes.
it
Ish.
in the new Blade Runner. We established that yes, he is a replicant.
No, we don't. 2069?
2049.
Whatever.
Should we go
I,
with that?
I thought
No, they
Should we?
don't. He's aged.
the replicants still age.
You know what? No, we're not
They
having
just don't
nope,
have an
nope.
artificial lifespan.
This is
Okay.
not a podcast about Blade Runner. This is a podcast about Krull.
Well, I'm going to quote Rachel. This is our podcast. We do what we want.
we do. Well, we're
kidding.
we've only watched that one time, so we'd have to go back and watch it again. And I was
Well-
very distracted by Jared Leto as usual. So
Oh, I see the nose flare. I know how to read that now.
I just find Jared Leto rather overwhelming as an actor. And underwhelming all at the same time. So I don't know why we
In
keep
Blade Runner
casting him and stuff.
2049.
Yeah, he's the head of the Tyrell Corporation.
Oh yes. Okay. Yep.
Remember, he's like giving up his eyes so that he can see with science.
Yeah, that was
A lot.
a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, a choice that obviously didn't work. Yeah, but I'm just saying, I think that it might have been a choice an intentional choice. I think the beard might have felt like they were like, oh, this will feel more sci-fi or out there.
Yeah. Sci-fi fantasy.
But it made him look older, and he genuinely, and at some point they called him the Boy King.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, you act like a small child with, and maybe his arc, it's like, are you going to have an emotional arc where you're at the end of it, you're a little bit more subdued and calm? But no, he's like this smiley little golden retriever the whole time.
Yep.
Like a little lab.
And
He's
he
like,
just makes it through.
he just smiles, he laughs at everything. He
Yeah.
doesn't genuinely seem to understand the stakes. Right?
Right.
So if your
the
main
only
character,
time he's really upset is like when he wakes up.
Right.
When Ynir shows up, he's like depressed.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
and
Ynir's
for
like,
the
get over
entire
it.
rest of the movie, he's like, I'm unstoppable.
Well, that's because Ynir told him to nut up or shut up. And he did. He was like, okay. And he's like, well, we're going to need the glaive if you're going to defeat the beast. And he's like, well, it's just a symbol. And the Ynir goes, it's a weapon, not a symbol. And Colwyn's like, oh, okay, cool.
yeah.
Well, where is it?
Yeah, he's really hot-headed too. I was like, this is gonna remind you of Aelin. Like at the very beginning when him and his dad show up, and they're all like yelling at each other.
Yeah.
They're like, fuck diplomacy. Let's yell at each other and like be really combative, but in this very like non-productive way.
Yeah. Our children have already decided that this war is over. And we don't put baby in a corner, so we're going to give them what they want.
Yeah.
They want to get married and end the war, then I guess fine, they'll get married.
And
end
we're
the
not
war.
gonna have 2 kingdoms anymore. Now we have 1 kingdom.
right, with one army to fight the beast.
Yeah.
Which we didn't bring and are not.
Right,
nearby.
he didn't.
Oh, they
bring
brought
his army.
300 men, but they all died.
Right.
Cool.
So they're supposed to join armies.
'Cause lasers.
Where's the
'Cause
other army?
lasers, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't. So this glaive, which I think is the symbol of his kingdom, Colwyn's kingdom, is somehow in Lyssa's kingdom. Because they're able to, he's like, well, it's in that mountain, like the second tall. You see the second one over there on the
Right.
left?
It's like 5 minutes away from
It's
Lyssa's
up there.
castle.
It's fine. It's right up there. And so this is when we get our rock climbing scene where he's
a long, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I was literally thinking, wow, you put a cameraman on a mountain over there
yeah.
to film over there.
There's one part where I didn't even see him. I just thought it was a still photo of a mountain.
No,
this
'cause he's
tiny
so
But then,
little.
yeah, he's hopping around.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Someone make that choice.
Yeah.
They're like, this will be, and it's
with super
because,
optimistic music playing over the background.
yeah, and it's stunning. Like you're like,
Yeah.
wow, where is this? I think it's in Italy because I looked up where they went. They were in England and Italy,
yeah.
and it made me look it up and be like, oh, where are those mountains?
Yeah, it was really pretty.
Super pretty. And then I'm like, is this
Absolutely.
the actor? Like, who is that? I must have
It was
been-
him.
That was
it was
him.
him. He did all of his own
Wow,
stunts.
okay.
Like they would have paid a stunt. actor.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't know stuntmen because
Yeah.
they wanted the choreography to be as stale as possible. It's fine.
They just let everybody wing it.
I have a feeling Kate has an opinion about the choreography. I don't know. I'm feeling
Is
it.
this something that comes up?
it's
I
in
don't
the
know.
zeitgeist
Have I made that
in this
clear?
room right
I'm
now.
unsure.
Yeah.
Probably going to mention it. It's like how I feel about Game of Thrones. No big
Yeah.
deal.
The director was just like, make it look good.
He's like, I
no,
don't know
that's
if I
wrong.
was swords.
Make it look good.
Yeah, very communicative.
Now do it
Effective
again.
communicator.
Now do
Yeah.
it again, but better.
Yeah. Can you do it differently?
Yeah.
But no it's specific instructions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he finally climbs high enough that he finds the rock vagina that the glaive is in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Matt goes, I think it's in the core. And I said, good thing it's warm and moist in there.
Oh.
Because it's ready for his entrance. Because he just goes in and there's literally like lava-ish something flowing down
Oh,
the
it looks
side.
like the slime from Ghostbusters too.
And he looks down and there's the glaive. Like nobody found this.
Just like swirling.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do like the part, and it made an impression on my young kid brain when he like pulls it up and the like charcoal
The crust crumbles off.
just tumbles
falls
off.
it.
I mean, that was pretty cool.
And luckily he's holding it in the right place because then the blades come out.
And he doesn't cut his arm, slice him.
Yep.
And if you watch him throw that thing later on, you're like, Jesus, because the way you have to like, because it's not like the claws. It seems to. We can talk about that another time. It seems to like connect to him via some sort of force or power.
Yeah. Well, they're not humans. Remember, they're Krullian. They're Krullers.
Crullers. They are Krullers.
I told Rachel there's Krull, and then there's the sequel, Cruller.
Yeah.
So we
funny.
don't know the rules. Apparently, Krullers are also fire resistant because
They're lava proof.
he just reaches in the lava and pulls it out.
I mean, it's not the first time we've seen that. So
And we know it's lava because when his hand goes in,
he's
flames
also,
burst out.
There's also a prophecy about him having the ability, and they say only the right guy can get it.
Yeah, and he's like, "Well, I'm the right guy. Let's go do this."
He's like, maybe I am. I'm gonna stick my hand in this lava.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because the marriage ceremony was interrupted, and he was, as part of the ceremony, he was ready to receive the fire from his wife.
To receive her fire.
He was ready to receive her fire, and so while they're in this weird state in the middle of the ceremony, he's fire resistant.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
you know what?
okay,
We'll just go
it's
with
fine.
that.
It's
good.
Krull.
You fixed
It's
it.
fine.
Thanks.
It's fine.
And then he tucks it into his belt.
no, it has its own
And
little carrier space.
the blade is
Yeah.
definitely not close to anything delicate.
Yeah.
Well, but the glaive the glaive seems to respond to him
Oh yeah,
via some
he
sort of
controls
like
it psychically.
it's like a symbiotic relationship.
Right,
yeah.
but what if he accidentally
Which it-
deployed the blades?
Yeah, it would cut off his nuts, his or his wrist. It would slice his wrist down the street, not across the river. So it would be pretty like
Dangerous.
pretty dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the
So, and then
they're like, have you ever played
wandering
disc
along.
golf? You know disc golf?
Yeah.
That's how you
fire
should
speed.
look. Like a nice graceful. That's literally what he looks like when he.
threw it, and I did the from
From Xena?
when she throws the
I never watched Xena, but that's really funny.
She made that sound every time. She had like a it has a special name, but it's a blade in a circle,
Okay.
and she would throw it. That was part of her.
And
like,
she
shtick.
made that sound?
Yeah, she'd make like a. I'm not making the sound again.
It's
but
like a war call.
And
A
she'd
war
make
cry.
like a war cry every time she threw it. It wasn't psychically linked
You can
to her.
sample
but
it for the podcast.
I
Yeah.
have to find some Xena.
Yeah.
Which Lucy Lawless did an interview recently, and they were like, "So tell us, we're Xena and Gabby, a couple, because Lucy's character Xena travels around.
Yeah, I thought they.
Yeah. And she was like, "Yeah, we were a couple." But
Yeah.
it was the '90s, and we couldn't say that.
But didn't they? They came out on the show
Yeah.
eventually.
No, not on the show.
Are you sure?
I mean, they might as well have, but I don't think we ever said the words that they were in a relationship.
Oh, I thought that happened. I thought I remember that, but I'm probably wrong.
Yeah.
So-
I was like, yes, I loved Xena way better than. Well, thank goodness I did, because the guy who did Hercules has gone off the rails. So
Kevin Sorbo.
Kevin
Oh
Sorbo.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Isn't he? I don't think we're allowed to talk about it.
Yeah. Oh, okay, so then we get our creepy scene.
Anyway,
That's like the one thing she won't let us talk about. We're not. We're limited.
But then we get the creepy scene where she's standing in the eye. And this is a good example of how every once in a while this movie pulls something out that you're like, okay, that was pretty cool. And it's where we start out way back and it looks
Yeah,
like
the
an
visual
eye.
here
And when
is
you
really
zoom
cool.
in, she's the pupil inside this eye.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's like the glint on the pupil.
Well,
Yeah.
and I thought the mountain was really cool. I mean, every part of it looks like a carapace or like
Yeah.
a hand or claw or a backbone, like a
Yeah. Like,
spine, like connected. It had this very,
like the beast is the castle.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was cool. It was really neat to look at. Like whoever they hired to be the visual artist or the set designer, what is that term called? And
I think a set designer.
set designer?
Yeah.
Or the
Yeah,
director
whoever does
of
the miniatures. Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's beautiful. And they did a great job. That they spent money on. That person was talented.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the costume designer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But the beast is trying to get her to marry him because whoever she chooses is the one who gets to rule the world and then the galaxy. So
Oh, so there's a reason for
there's
that.
a reason.
Oh,
They're trying they're competing for
really-
her to choose them
Really not on board with that. I didn't understand.
because it's who she chooses. That's who gets
So
to be the
Right.
She-
Yeah.
her-
Whoever marries this princess who has this old name.
Princess Lissa.
yeah.
Their child, whoever she has a child with, will rule the galaxy.
And he knows that.
Right.
Okay, because it didn't make sense to me that this big, powerful world conqueror was just like,
I want
had his
that.
eyes, that one.
That one.
That one.
Yeah.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because if she chooses the other guy, he loses. The
Right.
beast loses.
Right.
So they need to figure out where the castle is because the castle appears and disappears every single day at dawn.
Yeah.
And you never know where it's going and it's never in the same place twice. And so they're going to go see the blind seer,
Right.
the emerald seer.
Well, and make a point, Ynir, is that how we say his name?
yeah.
He is very much like, there's one way to do this.
Yeah.
We're going to go see the seer.
Right?
Yeah.
Here's how I felt. Ynir finds Colwyn, and he's like, okay, Colwyn, grabs him by the hand and drags him. Okay, you need to go get the glaive. Go. And then he comes back. He's like, okay, now we're going this way. And then along the way, they meet up with the band of the
Bandits.
rogues, bandits, whatever.
Yeah.
And then Colwyn has his, moment in the focus, whatever, and his charisma convinces them to join. And then
His big dick
Ynir is
energy.
like,
His BDE.
okay, anyway, grabs Colwyn's hands. Now we need to go this way.
Yeah, but it's
And Ynir
almost like
drags-
a campaign.
Ynir drags
Yes, it is.
Colwyn
Like
through the entire movie.
Like each
With
day,
an
the writers
overbearing
had
dungeon
a
master.
20-sided die, and they were like,
Where do we go today?
"Yeah, let's roll for it.
Let's roll for it. Exactly.
Let's roll for it. What do we think?" Because he's like, "Oh, this is the only way. We have to get the seer.
Yeah.
This is the
Right.
only way to do this.
Right.
Seer dies. There's another way. I
One
know.
other
I know
way.
one other way.
Yeah, it'll be fine. I didn't
It'll be
mention
fine.
it before because
but it's a long shot.
It's a
It
little-
Yeah,
may
because
not
it's
work.
it's the love of my life
It's my
that I'm
ex.
estranged from because
Yeah.
I chose Judy and whatever over
Her.
this woman.
yeah, and she was so broken up about it, she cursed herself to be stuck in this web forever.
Oh, that's not even the worst part.
Yeah,
She had a child and murdered it.
yeah, because it looked like
because
me.
she was so upset at her husband.
Yeah,
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 that was the cool part.
yeah. Well, we're gonna get there. Because we have to get we have our sage, we need our fool. The hero's journey always has a sage and a fool. So we have to get our fool. And that fool is Ergo. And he shows up right now.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
just
The
traveling.
teacher from Willy Wonka.
Yeah, the teacher.
Do you know who I am?
With you? Do you know who I am?
No?
I am Ergo the Magnificent. Short in stature, tall in power, narrow of purpose, and wide of vision. And I do not travel with peasants and beggars. Goodbye.
Ergo?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, I'm short in stature. Like,
And wide of vision.
yeah.
I do not travel with, what's he say, peasants and beggars.
Yeah.
Goodbye. He's funny.
Yeah, he's funny.
He's great. He's like a great part of the movie.
He's one of our most emotionally mature characters in the entire
Yes.
show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he kind of saved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. He shows up. He's great. I think him turning into the goose, all the animals he turns into,
Yes.
are
Hysterical.
so great. The
Yeah.
freaking
Right. He's
beagle
so
puppy. Are you
sarcastic.
Oh,
He's
the
so
kidding
passive
me?
aggressive.
I know.
Are you kidding
I
me?
know. The puppy is so cute. And it's so poignant in the moment. Like, it's a very emotionally mature thing for him to do. But we get our glimpse of the Cyclops because Ergo's going to leave. And he sees the Cyclops and he runs back and jumps on Colwyn's horse. And that's when he's like, I've got urgent business. Staying alive. Because he doesn't want to get... Because Cyclops are foreign. he doesn't know what it is.
Right.
scares
He
him.
thinks it's just another monster.
And that's when we run into our merry band of thieves. So we head through this very strategic. If I was playing D&D and somebody put up this map, I would know we were about to have an encounter because there's one entrance
Ambush.
on one side, one entrance exit on the other side,
And
and
a whole
lots
bunch
of hiding places.
Yeah, a bunch of places that block your line of sight.
Yeah. So they all pop out, and this is when we get little baby Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's so cute.
With the chin strap beard.
Yeah.
yeah, and 8
Keegan.
wives.
Yeah, and 8 wives. Yes. And
He's a polyamorous robber.
right, but I don't think they know about him.
They have no
don't.
idea.
Yeah.
They all
like-
think he's a faithful
he's a
man.
traveling
He's like,
man.
"Faithful's
I think
my
he
middle
says,
name."
yeah, I was just going to say, faithful
Loyalty
is
is my middle name.
And at the end, when he
Perfect.
dies, he says, tell Mirith I love her. What about the other 7?
Right, that's just the one wife we saw.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, we'd forgotten about them plot-wise by then. It's
Yeah.
fine. Oh, we also get Robbie Coltrane.
Yeah, Hagrid.
Little baby Hagrid.
Yep.
Yeah. Matt was like, oh, because he
It's
died.
Hagrid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're not the leader. The leader is
Turquil.
Torquil.
And he is, I think, okay, so that actor's name is Alan Armstrong, and I noticed that his emotional depth in acting in this movie felt really out of place because it was done so well.
Yes.
Like, do
I
you know
agree.
where
This is
you
a
are?
classic British trained actor.
Did you watch Jupiter Ascending?
Is that the movie with Channing Tatum?
Yes.
And Mila Kunis?
Yeah.
I did.
And
Eddie Redmayne is in Jupiter Ascending. And Eddie Redmayne is going so hard. Like, he signed up for this role, or his agent signed him up for this role, and he's going to be goddamned if he's going to be bad in this role just because it's a bad movie.
Right, he's the big evil bad guy. And he
goes so hard.
He
the
crushes
whole
it.
movie. And everyone
He
else
carries the movie.
Everyone else knows what movie they're in, except Eddie Redmayne.
Like
so,
they're escalating the drama, right? The scope of the whole conflict, and then you find out, okay, here's the guy in charge of everything, and
he's
if
Eddie Redmayne.
he didn't commit to the whole character, portraying like every aspect of this character, all the drama was going to collapse. But he commits and he holds up the tension, and that's what makes the movie succeed.
Is because
Otherwise, it would just be so ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, and it's almost, it just is, it stands out so much compared to our main character.
Yeah.
Who
Yes.
is not a good actor in any sense
No.
of a word that means acting, because he is just smiling like a
Yeah.
small child boy the whole time. Like
Yeah.
every scene.
He has no emotional journey. He's there
no.
for eye candy, and that's it.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And his intense choreography. And he just, and those pants, like someone needs to wear the pants. They, like, literally, that's how whoever, the showrunner, whoever made this movie, that's how they introduced this. That's how,
They were like, this man can wear these.
no, they just brought the pants in.
Yeah.
And they were like, imagine a world with these
With-
pants.
Yes, where our hero wears
Wears
these
these
pants.
And they were like, sold, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
What budget do you need?
30 mil? Got you.
Got you.
How big of a soundstage? You need 3 of them? 23 sets? I got
Fine.
you.
You want the 007 stage? It's yours.
It's yours. It's yours. It'd be like using the volume.
You want to
these
make it
days.
into a swamp, so you literally have to take a boat out into the set?
Oh, yeah.
Sure. Let's do
And
that.
okay, so we're not there yet, so I
No.
won't bring it up. But this movie does cause some of that childhood trauma because we all grew up thinking quicksand was everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
We all grew up thinking we were going to run into quicksand somewhere.
Yeah.
And we were all going to somehow.
That's because they used it a lot in the 80s. It's
So
in Princess
much.
Bride. It's in this.
But like, I
It's a
don't.
never-ending story.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it really didn't turn out to be that big of a deal, guys.
I don't even know where you can actually find quicksand. Like, where does it exist?
During
like,
an earthquake,
what
maybe?
climate has quicksand?
I don't know. Krull. Fantasia. And what's it?
And
Florin.
quicksand, like real quicksand, doesn't actually pull you
the
under.
fire swamp.
Like
Yeah.
you are less dense than the quicksand. So if you
Right.
just stay still, you float to the top.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
Like
you.
when you move, it like reduces the
It's
surface
liquefaction.
tension around you, and that's how you think. Is like just if you just wiggle yourself around. I end up wiggling the chair if I move too much while
Yeah,
I'm talking.
I know.
But yeah, if you shake yourself, like wiggle your arms and legs, like try to swim, then you will slowly sink into the quicksand.
Yeah, it's called liquefaction.
But if you hold still, you slowly float up.
It's the same thing that happens during an earthquake. That's why sometimes you'll see buildings that are like sunken in the earth. And it's because when the earth shakes, it's...
The water rises to the surface.
Yeah, it's just, if you take sand and water in a container and you shake it.
Yeah, and that makes sense. It's like when
It's the
you're
same
at the
thing.
beach and you have to wiggle your way into the sand
Yes.
Yeah.
versus just standing on the sand.
Right.
Right. Well, we all grew up. I've seen so many memes about it, and it's hysterical every single time. Where it's like, I grew up thinking that quicksand was a lot more of a danger.
Then it actually
yeah.
is.
Like, I need quicksand
Yeah.
insurance.
Right.
Because you never know when you will come across.
Right.
I'm going
they're
to have
in
lots of like daydreams where I practice how am I going to get out of the quicksand
We
if
learned
I
about
fall
it in
into
school.
it.
Remember, they're like, lay down flat, like try to grab a branch. It's
No way.
Yes, we learned about how to escape quicksand in school, and you're like, oh my God, this could happen to me at any
I
moment.
need, it's
Every
it's
adult has to be
hey
prepared
guys,
for this."
Today we're going to have our tornado drill. Tomorrow we will stop, drop, and roll. And on the third day, we're going to learn how to not drown in quicksand.
In quicksand. Well, nobody taught these people because they almost do. But
They
to
do
be
lo-
fair,
they
it's
do lose a
magic,
friend.
It's magic quicksand.
Yeah.
But we get our second like Cyclops witness thing here, where Ergo sees the Cyclops and passes out, and they bring him back with the salve. He like swipes it
like
across
smelling
his forehead.
salts.
Yeah, he
And
does.
Ergo's like, oh my God, away.
Yeah.
And we learned about the Cyclops, that they're actually aliens from another planet.
Yep.
And they gave up their second eye so that they could
Ancient
see the
enemies
future.
of the beast and the
Yeah.
slayer.
Right, because the beast tricked them, and the only future they can see is their own death. And this guy, the guy who plays Rel, the Cyclops, is 6'7" already.
Yep.
And then they put him in lifts, and then he has this prosthetic over his eyes, so he actually couldn't see, which is why he's standing still half the movie.
Which
Because
the scenes where he is moving are doubly impressive,
Terrifying.
yeah,
knowing that he can't actually see.
Yeah.
When he's running through the swamp,
Mm-hmm.
and so back up. The swamp stage, I read a little bit of sorry, running through the swamp stage. So it was really, really cold outside. So those people were all like freezing
yeah,
to death in this
Oh, jeez.
in this swamp. And that's one of the things that's so inconsistent is that you get this. We're outside in the daylight a lot, and then we're on a soundstage.
yeah.
So this back and forth between like here and here. There's just no.
Yeah. Well, the
It's
part where
not
they
fluid at all.
the part where they sink in the swamp is actually dyed cork that they floated on the surface of the water.
That makes so much sense.
And
It
that's-
looks like cork.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Matt was like, what did they? Maybe
I
that's
thought
sawdust.
maybe
We were
it
trying
was
to
like
figure out
sawdust
what.
or something.
No, it looks.
'cause it would float.
It does definitely look like cork.
Yeah, because they're walking through the swamp, and all of a sudden they start to sink, which is the beast. The beast is trying to stop them from
Right.
finding the seer, because even the beast knows the absolute only way, for now, that they can find the Iron Castle is the seer. And so it knows it's on their way. They are on their way, so it sinks them. And they lose one of their friends, which I love how he pushes the bag towards them, like, save the bacon. And they're like, okay.
Don't go hungry.
And as soon as they lose this hand, they're like, oh, well, he was a nice guy. And then they
Grab
just
his
throw-
rucksack.
bag.
Throw that.
I got
They're
the
like,
bacon.
yeah.
They grab the bag and they pull them back in. And we don't ever mention the quicksand. I mean, we kind of do, because this is when we'll do that later. Oh, that's later. We do that after we get the Emerald Seer, because that's when the Emerald Seer dies.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we go to like a magic door, and we get through this magic door, and the Emerald Seer is there. And I remember always
Well,
thinking,
the swamp is when the Emerald Seer is with them.
yeah,
They have to go through the
Right.
swamp
Wait,
to get to
but-
I know I got out of
Okay.
order. I got out of order. I'm sorry.
That's
We're
okay.
having so
They
much
weren't
fun.
sure. They rolled for
Oh,
it, so it's fine.
It's fine. It's fine. You know what? If that didn't make sense, it wasn't going to make sense if I went in order. So it really doesn't
really
matter.
doesn't
even
matter.
if we went through this movie in order.
It's well, and one of the things that I read that people would like that. One of the things that's great is this would be on like USA TNT when we were
Yeah.
little kids,
Yeah.
TBS,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Oh,
This
yeah.
is one of those Sunday movies that if it's on, and you can really come in the way that it's like split up. You
Yeah.
really can come in at any part and not feel like you missed anything,
No.
and watch a little bit of it, and you got yourself a nice little 15-minute segment of a fantasy film.
Yeah.
And then you can walk
Right, 'cause
away
it's
and like
visually entertaining.
yeah, it's
and
beautiful
the
to look
characters
at.
are sometimes funny.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
mostly
Right?
what you need.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually have in my notes right here the main actor's pants with an exclamation mark. And then, because he has this power stance that he does every time he has to stand still.
When he stands still, he like sticks his knee out a little bit and turns his leg to the side. It was like he probably just needed to like
air out his balls.
Well, I was thinking
that's
like
the way his balls breathe.
I was thinking maintain circulation through his legs because
Yeah.
the pants are so tight.
Right. But we get to the, okay, guys, we get to the Emerald Seer, okay? And we get in his little house. And the
He has-
Emerald, I always thought the Emerald Seer was super creepy. I don't, something
Well,
Oh,
they-
about
he's
him is
they give you this
horrifying.
rock.
He's really horrifying.
And
I
Ynir's
think
like,
it's because he's very soft
oh,
looking.
hey, can you let me in?
Like
and
he's-
then
yeah.
there's a line in the rock and they walk
Right.
through.
And he's very like, I don't know, because he's got this blousy, like flowing robe on. All of his hair looks super soft.
He looks
and
really
coiffed.
monochromatic.
Yeah.
He's like
All
soft,
super pale.
His eyes are closed. We
Yeah.
know later on he gets super scary.
Yeah.
And makes one of those scary sounds.
Yeah.
Like he is terrifying. And I
Right.
remember watching it again and being like, oh yeah, he's still terrifying.
Yeah.
And there's something about that green that is kind of menacing to me too. Like the
It's
saturation.
like poison green.
the
probably.
the saturation of that green. It's
Yeah.
not like it
Well-
feels really scary.
Yeah, and they use a giant emerald to see, and this emerald was actually like suspended from the ceiling, and they had it spin. So
Yeah,
this
it
was
was-
like a thing happening directly in front
It's
of them. while
what
it
are those
happened.
called? Physical, like
Practical effect.
practicals.
It was a
practicals. Yeah.
I mean, it's not CG, obviously, so it has to be a practical effect.
Yeah.
Which at the beginning, when the glaive is flying through space, Matt was like, "That's some really nice CG." I was like, "That is not CG. That is." Somebody just threw the stupid glaive thing, like swung it around on a string.
Well, they probably had it spinning on a post and then they moved the camera around. Like that's how Star Wars did a lot of the
Yeah.
ship effects is the ships were on posts and these were stationary.
Right.
And then the camera would move to simulate the
Right.
ship moving.
So big shocker.
know what?
The Emerald Seer can't see the Iron Castle because the beast blocks his vision.
Blows up the emerald.
Yeah, and so they're like, well, okay, let's roll for it. Like, oh.
Yeah, let's roll.
We rolled an intelligence check and we remembered that there was a temple in the middle of the swamp where the beast has no dominion.
The Emerald Temple.
Yeah, so we can go out there. I can do my thing there and we'll be fine. We'll be able to see where, we just have to get to it. We have to go through this menacing ass swamp, which is going to be totally fine. And then we'll be able to see where the beast is going to be. Which hopefully it's close. Or maybe they were just going to hang out in this temple and check every day until it was somewhere closer.
There they are.
Are you okay?
I just couldn't find my glasses. I was like, where are they?
Where's my face?
I like all of a sudden was like, where did they go?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going out to the swamp.
And we have the little kid Titch. So we
Titch
pick
is
up,
so cool.
We pick up Titch and we pick up the Emerald Seer.
He's so, you know what? It's really hard for me in 2023 to not see how traumatized this little old soul kid is.
Yeah.
He does not get to be a kid.
No.
The most kid he gets to be is to love that little puppy.
Yeah.
Right, because he has to
And he
take
has-
care of
he's
the
He's
Emerald
so
Seer.
kind.
Like everything
Yeah.
that the Emerald Seer
like
needs day
he's
to
an
day.
adult. Yeah, and that's why Farah gets to be an old 19-year-old.
Yeah.
Because I imagine they all grow up like Titch, where they're just not able to be kids.
No.
I mean, he's like another part of the like another.
Member of the party.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is when the Cyclops joins them. Because
Yeah,
they
who's-
head out into the swamp.
And he's one of the coolest characters ever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rel.
And they pull him off pretty well.
Yeah. He's good. For 1983, this is a 40-year-old movie. Yeah, he's doing great.
Yeah.
And this is when they're talking about what would they want. Titch is like, well, I'd want a puppy. And Ergo's like, why one puppy? Wouldn't you want like a bunch of puppies? You could have like 100 puppies. Wouldn't you want 100 puppies? And Titch is like, no, I want one puppy. And then they ask Rel, what would you want if you could wish for anything? And he's like,
Ignorance.
ignorance. Like, wow, Rel, thanks. Really
Yeah.
bringing the tone down what we're trying to go for here.
Yeah.
We're trying to keep our mood up while we
I
go
know
through
everyone
this
else is
creepy
here,
swamp.
and Rel's like, I would like to not know how I was going to
Well,
die.
meanwhile, the leader of the bunch is just over there like,
Oh yeah, Colwyn. No, Rel
Like-
is the most somber character, which is probably why he feels the most.
I mean, if the only vision that you had all the time was your demise,
Yeah.
you might be a little melancholy too.
right? Maybe that's what Colwyn needed.
The weight of the world. Yeah, Colin obviously
Needed some perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did not seem to understand the stakes.
No.
He was just like flying through it. And I mean, I guess I get that because like Luke kind of had that like boyful presence. And, as we see the Skywalker.
Yeah, but he gets growth. Like he grows, and when sad things happen, he's sad.
Yeah, or screaming. Yeah.
Right, like he loses Obi-Wan. in the first movie.
Yeah.
Right? So he has actual emotional impact in the first movie.
Yeah.
Which I love the part where it's Princess Leia and she's like, oh yeah, my entire planet just got blown up. But please tell me about how you're sad about that guy you met a week ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it Alderaan that gets blown
Alderaan,
up?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that, but I don't think I ever connected that, like, every time we see Alderaan in one of these shows, that shit's gonna blow up.
All of it.
All of it, the whole thing.
In like the first 15 minutes of episode 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is when you get our quicksand. The quicksand sucks down Mano, I think is his name. But not his pack, which, thank God.
That's
we
where the
didn't-
bacon
Luckily, the
is.
food
Didn't lose
floats.
those supplies.
Yeah.
And this is when the seer is killed because they all leave the seer to go try to save
Right.
the
They,
people in
they
the
form a
quicksand.
human chain.
Right. And they're just like, here, sit here. It's fine. There's nothing around. Clearly, nothing menacing is happening. This doesn't feel like a trap at all. It'll be perfectly okay. And the seer gets killed by a changeling. So it's somebody who looks exactly like the seer. Except the
One of the
changelings all
beast's
have
creatures.
like solid black eyes. Mm-hmm. And this is when Colwyn comes up and he's like, come on, I'll help you. And he takes the seer's hand and puts it on his shoulder. And the seer's like, thank you. I'm going to slit your throat
With
with
my creepy ass
my
hands.
creepy talon hands. And then we get our creepy Slayer scream. Because I think Rel finds the seer's dead body.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he
And
sees
then-
the seer's body.
And him running
float
through
up.
the woods is, like, it's terrifying a little bit.
Yeah. And he hits him with his like spear, his
Trident.
multi-ended spear thing.
Yeah.
And then we get our
Yeah.
creepy Slayer scream as his
The
face
twang.
melts. His face melts. The seer's whole. he
Oh,
gets,
it, like, bubbles up and melts, which
Yeah.
is also pretty cool.
Yeah.
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 That's when I realized you couldn't show the kids this movie.
No.
It's too much for
yet.
the kids.
All right. So then we get Kate's favorite part. Almost. Because now that we don't have the seer, and of course, the seer was absolutely the only way we could find the Iron Castle, except for the other way that we can find the Iron
Except for
Castle.
the other way. Well, I also have to we have to bring up the fact that they're in the middle of this fucking adventure, and like, okay, so
Ynir.
Ynir is about to head off and go to my favorite part,
Yeah.
but the rest of the party is just out in the woods,
Hanging out.
and they're like, "Hey, Keegan, is that his name? Yeah. Hey, Keegan, doesn't one of your wives live near here?" And he's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, I mean, one of them moved down to the other bend of the river, but my other wife, she lives nearby." And they're like, "Okay, tell her to come make us some food." And then 2 women just show up and are like making them food
To cook for them.
to cook for them.
Yeah. Because
And
they're
it-
tired
and
and,
it's-
they're too tired to hunt.
Well, it just, to me, it's not even about, I don't even care about, like, it's the women that show up. I'm more just talking about, like, the convenience of people being so close that they just
Yeah.
came
It's like
to
they're
the
on
woods.
it's like they're on the Greenway in a major city. And they've been camping and hanging out on this Greenway. And just literally at any moment they could hop off trail.
and someone's going to come and make them some food.
Yeah, go
Right, and
go
then
to the
McDonald's
grocery
around the
store,
corner.
pick
Yeah.
up a couple of chicks,
Yeah,
bring
that's
them
how
back and cook.
convenient it seemed.
Yes,
They're
yeah.
like, "We're pretty hungry. Let's
Yeah.
go get one of your wives."
Yeah.
And she just comes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Let's
brings
have
her
a
friend.
party.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, it's literally like they're on the Greenway. And
Yeah.
they're just on this
and it takes you out a little
yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, what do you mean you're not how populated is this world? Like
Yeah.
how far from cities are you that
Guess not too far.
you're acting like you're the only ones for miles, but clearly you're not because
Yeah.
you're too tired to hunt, but you're not too tired to like walk into town. They literally just like headed up over the berm that separated the Greenway from like a major industrial center.
Yeah.
Walked through the parking lot, made a phone call, and got some girls to come out.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it's exactly what it feels like. Meanwhile, not far from here, there is a giant cave with a magical spider and a magical spider web that has a woman in the middle of it that everybody knows about because he's like, "Oh, we're going to go see the widow of the web." And they're all
Not
like,
the widow of the web.
they're like, "Not the widow of the web. Nobody goes in there and comes out alive." And he's like, "It's okay. I know her name." And they're like, "How do you know her name?" And he's like, "Don't ask questions.
Just don't ask.
Just don't ask."
Don't ask any questions.
Yeah.
Well, and I forgot completely that because this movie's so wild, there's no, like, nothing stands out to you when they're doing the exposition, right? You don't remember anything they said. So I don't remember this prophecy he mentioned. So literally, when he goes in there and we learn her name, I'm like, what? She has the same name? That doesn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense.
Because we only mentioned the prophecy one time. And it's at the very beginning in the exposition dump, which plays over the credits.
Right.
Yeah.
So how was I supposed to remember that an old name was supposed to be, I was just like, that's really stupid. Why would you give them both the same name? Like, I had to go on IMDb and be like, wait, do they have the same name? Am I wrong?
Because we only say
Am
her
I
name a couple times, too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Princess Lissa. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't get enough repetition for the viewer to remember these things because so much else is happening.
Yeah.
You got to refresh me on this stuff because in the meantime, I've met a guy that can turn into a goose. I've hooked up with a band of bad guys who are not bad guys.
We've sunken in the...
They're not bad guys.
The terrible...
Yeah, we've met the Emerald Seer. The Emerald Seer died.
We climbed a mountain.
We found, a lot has happened.
Yeah.
And we have not refreshed anybody's memory on why we're doing anything that we're doing. Mm-mm. Motivation's unclear, except that Coleman wants to rescue Lissa, and for some reason, his big dick energy was enough to get everybody on board with him doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a salesman, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the reason why Rachel called this my favorite part is because when I was in college, my buddy Jack was one of my, like, best friends. And I think we got high one day and watched this movie. And so one of the ways that we would greet each other, like, constantly, like, still 20 years later, I will get a random text or I will randomly text him,
I seek the widow!
I seek the widow! And, like, that's it. That's all we say. Because, so when they mentioned Krull, that was literally the first thing I said to Rachel and Matt was that line, because that's what stands out to me about the entire movie.
Yeah,
so,
I seek the widow.
Jack, if you're ever listening to this, hey, bud, hope you're doing all right. Because you'll probably get a text from me in, like, 3 years that says I seek the widow.
Yeah. And have you listened to my podcast, by the way?
Yeah, I'll send it to him. I'll send it to him tomorrow. I'll be like, hey, buddy, I mentioned you here. Good thing we had good times.
And this is when it slows. Well, it doesn't really slow down here very much. But I spent a few minutes IMDbing, obviously, because here's where I have all the notes about what everybody else played in. So Lisette, who plays Lissa, she was in Dracula Dead and Loving It. She's Lucy. Did you ever see Dracula Dead and Loving It?
That was with Liam Neeson?
Liam Neeson. It's a Mel Brooks movie with Liam Neeson. And
which one? The Lissa?
Yeah, Princess Lissa.
Really?
Yeah, she's Lucy.
I don't remember that movie, but I'm not into vampires like you are.
It's one of my least favorite Mel Brooks movies, so I wouldn't be surprised. It's like Mel Brooks meets like campy 90s comedy humor.
I don't think I've seen it.
We'll have to watch it then.
Maybe.
Because
add it to the list.
It's funny in that it's funny in the way that we like things to be funny, which is a little bit because it's supposed to be funny and a little bit just because it's aged so poorly that it's funny anyway.
Yeah, heard.
Yeah. Oh, this is when I was finding their ages too. That Colin is actually, the actor who plays Colin is 12 to 13 years older than the actress who plays his wife, his betrothed, which is pretty obvious.
Yeah, it breaks the 7+ rule.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, and I read about this was the first scene that they filmed in the soundstage.
Oh.
It was like the first scene.
The widow scene?
Yeah.
Oh.
It was Ynir. I've only seen it written.
Except for watching the movie.
Except for hearing it every
Well, they
time.
don't say his name very often. They
Yeah.
call him the old one.
And I literally saw it on the subtitles.
They call him the old one.
I just remember thinking.
I just remember his name twice.
I think
in the movie.
Yeah, and I just remember thinking, ugh, typical fucking fantasy name, have no vowels, except for Y. Sometimes Y, I guess. But so if you notice, there's cables. Right?
Yeah.
He's walking on the cables.
Ropes.
Yeah. So they didn't harness him. He has no safety harness on. I don't think it's very high off the ground, but he was climbing on that with no cables because they didn't have a way to remove them. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like when you read about the filming of The Wizard of Oz and all the people that like were
Got injured.
hospitalized.
Yeah.
And like
Why? Because of the
seriously
lead-based
injured.
paint that they were
And
covered
fire.
in?
Well, the lead-based paint, they
Oh,
were
yeah.
actually brushing powdered tin on the Tin Man's face, like
Yeah.
powdered aluminum. And so he got like a lung infection from inhaling powdered aluminum.
Smart.
And then there's the scene where the witch backs into she has to go down this little elevator while the fire explodes all at the same time. So she'll disappear into the fire, and the fire exploded before she went down the elevator. She got like 3rd-degree burns. And then they had to remove her makeup because it is copper-based, and it would have been toxic to leave it on. So she had 3rd-degree burns and had to have her makeup removed.
They had to scrub her face.
Yeah.
That is a different time.
Yeah.
And then they wanted to know when she'd be ready to
Did
resume
that
shooting.
get the best picture, or did Gone with the Wind?
I can't remember.
Because you know those came out the same year.
No.
Did you know,
didn't know that.
Gone with the Wind and The Wizard of Oz were up against each other in Best
Wow.
Picture. So I think Gone with the Wind got it. But yeah, can you imagine? It was a good year for movies.
It was a good year for movies.
Yeah.
So this is Ynir is heading into this magical web, and in the meantime, we have 2 other stories where we're seeing the beast, and the beast is tempting Lissa with like a crown and a beautiful robe, and he's like, "Well, your betrothed is going to betray you too, because the woman that Keegan's wife brings is a changeling." And so the changeling is attempting to seduce Colwyn, which he is totally unaware of.
He's oblivious.
She's like, "I could keep you company. I could comfort you." And he's like, "No, I'm good, actually. I'm fine." It's like,
She's like, I've been so
no,
lonely. I need somebody to comfort me.
He's pretty loyal. He's
Yeah,
very
yeah,
faithful.
he's like,
I mean,
"No,
he definitely
no."
says, "I have a bride." I mean, he acknowledges.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll
he's
I'll
a
help
good
you out.
dude.
Like,
When we
what do you
get
need?
this
And she's
is-
like, I need someone
in
to
his
sleep with.
immaturity, he's also very driven and
Yeah.
faithful to this lovely
and apparently
19-year-old.
irresistible, because this is when we get the changeling who's like, "I could have killed you,
I've loved you since the moment I met you.
but in the moment I knew you, I loved you." So Princess Lissa's like, "See, he
Now
never
you're
betrayed me.
betrayed."
You're the
Yeah.
one who's betrayed." And
and he's like, "Shucks."
he's like, "Oh, that didn't work."
Yeah.
And then Ynir is still making his way through the web.
With the see-through spider.
Yeah,
and
the creepy
thing.
spider. Yeah, and she turns.
Isn't that
the-
how Krull came up?
Yeah, I think so. Because we have an hourglass in
Yeah.
the pod studio. And so she turns the hourglass to give him time because it makes the spider pause. Mm-hmm. And that way he can get to the middle, and he meets Lissa, who is the woman inside this abode in the middle of this web. Mm-hmm. And she is the woman who plays the Lady Jessica in Dune, which comes out.
Oh, yeah.
I always thought she's very striking. Like, she's just, because he shows
Lady
her
Jessica
in Dune.
The one in the 80s.
Yeah, the 80s Dune.
Yeah, she's stunning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they had a relationship. We don't know when, because we don't know how old they actually are.
I think they're pretty old.
Yeah. I think they're mythical, because
Yeah, I
he's
do
the
too.
old one and she's the widow of the web.
Right.
And at one point they were together enough that she had a son. And when he left her for duty and she had the son, she took her hatred of him out on the son and killed him as soon as he was born. And so her punishment is that she's stuck in this web forever.
Yeah, this is written by men.
And anybody who, yes.
Women don't kill their children.
Yeah, women don't kill their children. They also don't get so broken up because that douchebag left them that they curse themselves to be stuck inside a spider web forever.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
that's not how
Yeah.
it actually.
Also, she's
you
not
could
a
have some
widow
mental illness.
unless she was married again, because he's not dead.
Right.
So she's just the spinster in the web. I don't know what you want to call that.
Yeah.
Which the root word for spinster, I found out the other day, the reason we call them spinsters is it was a woman who was so good at her craft that she could support herself. That was the original meaning of the word spinster. So a woman that could support herself, not someone who has aged out of marriage.
Oh, that makes so much more sense. I have actually been using that term to describe myself frequently. So cool.
There you go. Now you know.
I mean, I think it's a
You
great...
don't need a man.
Yeah.
No.
I know.
I mean-
but he gets into this little sphere thing, and he's like, "Well, we need to know where the Iron Castle is because there's a girl there and she has your name." And the lady's like, "Oh my God, she has my name."
Oh my God.
Oh my God. We're like soul sisters
Did
or
you-
whatever.
Holy cow.
Which she may have been aware of the prophecy and like, oh, okay.
Oh, the
the
dots.
princess that has my name
Yeah.
is the person.
Yeah,
in this
and that
prophecy.
makes more sense because she's like, you know what? I'm done living this life.
Yeah. And he gifts her with the vision of what he still sees her as, because she's old when he gets in there, but then she's young because that's how he still sees her, which Matt was
Right.
like, oh, she definitely wouldn't be wearing clothes if that's how he sees her. I was like, way to bring down the tone of the moment.
No, that's really funny though, because sometimes you forget that there's that perspective.
Yes.
I would never have thought that.
I know,
But like, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
I did. I thanked him. I was like, thank you for always bringing the
Here's-
male
here's the
perspective.
Perspective.
male-
Yeah.
to these moments.
I don't understand the male gaze or think about it often. So when it comes, I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Rachel was saying, if the podcast has taught me one thing, it's how aware men are of breasts at all times. I'm like, yeah, it's hardwired, right? It's annoying most of the time, and it's like I want to turn it off, but no, it's like,
Yeah.
whoop, okay,
Yeah, because when the
Pay attention to
changeling,
the-
in this scene, when the changeling gets vaporized, Matt's like, oh, she's not wearing anything underneath that top. And I was like, oh my God. Was there,
What?
I was
I
like, I didn't
would
even look.
never.
I was like, was there a nip slip? He's like, no, but you can tell. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's wild. I just don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was weird. Her eyes and yeah, yeah. Oh my God, I kind of want to like if I could just see the world through a male gaze for a day. That's
And
it.
then turn it off.
Turn it off. Yeah.
But this is actually a sweet moment that we get between Ynir and Lissa.
Yeah.
In this
Yeah,
sphere,
I think
because
they have good
she's
chemistry.
like,
They
you know,
pull it
you
off.
had a son and I killed your son. And I know you can never forgive me. And he's like,
I didn't even know it existed.
he's like, first of all, I've already forgiven you.
'Cause
I forgave you a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I can never forgive myself for the fact that I left you. And she's like, literally been waiting forever to hear that. Why didn't you come sooner? No, don't ignore the fact that I isolated myself in this magical web where you couldn't visit me. I just want you to know. But like,
Where I
I'm
can
glad we had
literally
this
only
moment.
turn this hourglass one time ever.
Yeah. And in exchange for the gift
one
of
time per person, right?
per person,
yeah.
I think.
I think it was one time per person.
Okay,
Yeah.
she says she can only turn it once.
It's the lore of the web.
The lore of the
The
web.
lore
Yeah.
of the web. I was like, is it lore, law? Where were we going?
Is it law with
I
a
think-
British accent,
so
or is
it-
it lore
it
and
said
they
law.
subtitled?
Yeah.
It, in the sub. Yeah. Okay. You saw the subtitle too.
Yeah.
Okay.
But she calls it the lore of the web.
Yeah.
And she tells him where the castle is. She just knows. She's like, oh, it's going to appear in the Iron Desert or whatever. It's
Right,
going to be
that's
in
the
the desert.
trade-off for being
Yeah.
stuck in the web.
I know right where it's going to be, but it's not going to do you any good. You can't get out. And he's like, you could turn the hourglass again. And that's when she's like, nope, sorry. One and done. Can't do it again. And he's like, she's got your name. And the lady's like, you know what?
If you don't do something,
you make a
she's
compelling
going
argument.
to die.
You make a compelling argument.
Or
I'm
she's
going to
gonna be
die
enslaved.
for her. And you're going to die for her too. Because as soon as I give you this sand, so the sands of time, so the hours of your life. Once these are gone, you're dead. And so she hands him the sand and he's like, I can't stop the sand. And that's when she's like, you can't stop time. And he stands there for like he's like fumbling this sand. Like, okay, first of all, when you take your gloves off or did he have to put it in his hand? Because
Yeah.
could he have put it in a baggie? Was there no other option?
I don't know, but I did not understand what was happening. I was going to mention that. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, we'll have Rachel explain that one.
Right, as long as the sand is running, the spider stops.
Well, the sand is her life. So she gives
Right.
her life
To him.
To him. And once it's gone, it's gone. Because
So,
the
but
reason she's
his
been-
life is powering. How is
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, I guess that'd be a
his
good
life
way to phrase
attached
it.
to the sand as well.
Yeah, once she hands the sand to him. Because
She's
it's,
out.
it's the law of the web.
Right,
Yeah.
her,
That
her life
becomes-
force is attached to the sand, but
Yeah.
once she gives it to him, her life force is gone,
And now
She
his
dies.
life force is
is attached to the
powering
sand.
the sand.
And once all the
Yeah.
sand has run out,
Yeah.
his
So
life
that's
force
how
has
he
run
gets out. Is he carries the sand out. And he has it just
Comes
long
out
enough.
fucking yelling.
Yeah, because he's got just this little bit of time before it's gone. And once it's gone, he can't tell them where it is. And so he finds them and he's like, it's in the desert.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're like, oh, what
He comes
happened?
out screaming and they're all like, huh?
Well, because they've been
They're
hanging out.
enjoying their dinners.
They've been hanging out. Somebody just hopped over the berm, brought back
Keegan
home
just-
some Burger King breakfast.
Keegan just banged wife number 7 and Yeah.
They're like, what? I'm sorry. And so they're like, okay, you got to get to the desert. They're like, we can't. It's too far away. We're never going to make it. And the one guy's like, what about fire mares? And you're like, oh, good. Somebody rolled an intelligence check and remembered that fire mares exist.
Yeah.
And they have the power to travel, I think, 3,000 leagues in a day.
1,000.
1,000 leagues.
Which it's supposed to be 1,000 leagues away.
They don't set a perimeter. They just say, I think the dialogue is, oh, they could do that. They could easily do that.
Oh, yeah. They're like,
Yeah.
it's 1,000 leagues away.
And
Well,
a
fire
fire
mares
bear
could
could do
travel
that.
1,000 leagues
Yeah.
in a
They could
day.
do that, yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, okay, well, let's go to exactly where we know fire mares are, which is not where we are, but
Which is
somehow we
about
just
10 minutes that way.
Yeah,
down
because the
Greenway.
world is actually tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we get the fire mares, which are just a bunch of Clydesdales. And
Yeah,
as
they're
they
beautiful.
run,
It's a beautiful
Okay.
scene.
It's cool.
If
It's
it's
so pretty. I
well-known-
feel like this took place in England. It was
Yeah.
very beautiful.
It was pretty.
If
Yeah.
it's well known that fire mares are this fast, why did Lys's dad, the king, why did Lys's kingdom not have fire mares like in their stables?
I
Like
also
domesticated
thought
fire
about
mares.
that.
Matt was like, where did they get the saddles? I was like, they woke
yeah.
them out of their back hair.
They had them with them the entire time.
Yeah.
That's what was in the bag.
Now they just
In the
ran
swamp.
up to Mirith's house, and she had a couple extra
Yeah,
ones.
it's fine.
And
It's totally cool.
yeah,
she just had 8
Yeah.
extra
yeah.
saddles.
That's all I could think about too. Is it does not make any sense that these mythical creatures are this powerful, and people don't fucking own them, and you can just catch them in the wild.
Yeah.
Right.
because that's not how
This is part of the
capitalism or
plausibility of the world
consumerism
building.
or anything works.
Right.
Like when something's that powerful, you have it.
Well, normally you don't need fast travel because you get where you want to go no matter where you want to go.
You just
because
jump on the
everything's
Greenway
so
and walk.
close.
By just stating
like-
out loud that that's what you need. You're like, okay, time to go get the fire mares. And then all of a sudden, you're there.
Okay.
You're in
And you
like
just
the-
start walking, and
All
the
right,
world blurs a
and
little
I
bit.
really need y'all to explain this to me because I have no fucking clue why this happened the way it happened. Rel couldn't go with them
Earl didn't want to go with them.
Rel
because
chose
he saw
not to.
himself die there.
Yeah.
And then 5 seconds later,
He thought better of
Like,
it.
I changed my mind.
He's like,
what the fuck? I don't understand. Like,
He's just trying to be mysterious. He's like, no, I can't go with you right now. I have to pee.
but was there
Once I'm done doing that.
like he literally said, "This is where I die. I don't go any farther."
Yeah.
And then literally like 5 minutes later, he's just on a fire mare heading their way. Did he I mean, they did say that if you try and outlive your death, it hurts you. It's like physically painful.
Yeah.
Did he just, or was it one of those things where it was like a memento thing where if, that was a bad reference. Strike that, reverse it. Strike that. Where like he knows that it has to happen like this, so if he tries to change it, so he knows he has to go on the horse by himself
Yeah.
to show up at that moment. It just didn't make any sense.
No, but don't just accept it.
I can't.
This whole
That's-
scene
that's-
is
that's the
slow.
thing.
This is a difficult scene. This divides the movie. Usually this is where I check out. I'm like, fire mares? Oh, fuck it. This is like 25 minutes of us just like wrangling horses. And then riding them.
They're beautiful, beautiful creatures.
Yeah, riding them through picturesque landscapes to epic music for the next 25 minutes. And then we get to the castle. And then the castle fight is slow because we battle our way into the castle.
Okay.
Half the characters die.
No. What about the part? What about the part where the where the ground splits open into this beautiful curve, right?
Yeah.
And Titch and Ergo fall in.
Yeah.
And then Colwyn climbs a rope down. And then as soon as it starts to close, he climbs back up.
I was like, why didn't you go back up? Why
gotta
didn't everybody
He's like,
jump
y'all
down
gonna be
together?
fine. I know. It's kingly behavior, okay?
No, he was straight up like down there already. And then as it starts closing, he climbs back. He's like getting down. No, come back up. Leave the kid and
Maybe-
Ergo down there. It's fine.
Maybe they could only do that scene one time, and it opened up, and he went down, and then Ken Marshall was like, "All right." He jumped down, and the director was like, "No, you're not supposed to be down there." So
Yeah.
he climbed back
Yeah.
up. And like, get up quick! It's already closing. We can't stop it.
Well, he's blithely.
And then that was the only take they could have had.
No, he's
So they had to
blithely
keep it.
unconcerned about everyone. Okay, the whole party splits, and he's like, "Well, y'all knew I was here for Lissa, so sorry, y'all. I'm gonna
and-
go find Lissa."
Not only, I mean, literally everyone dies.
Yeah,
Everyone dies.
Everyone
Right,
except
the only
Torquil
one of Torquil's
and
band
Titch and
that's
Urga.
left at the end is
It's
Torquil
Torquil.
and the young guy that volunteers first.
Though we don't know his name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
I didn't write his name down.
Yeah, him and Urgo and Titch, and that's it. Out of
Yeah.
everybody,
Yeah, no one. This
yeah.
is a
Hagrid dies.
lots of fatalities.
Yeah, all at once.
They were all finished.
Rel gets squished, and everyone's like, "Well, he knew that was coming," and they just keep going. Like,
He runs off because that is the attention span of a
Right, they're trying to
15-year-old
get him out
man
and
boy.
They're trying to get Rel out, and he's like, "No,
This is it.
This
This
is
is
it.
where I die.
yeah, and they're
And
like,
it's like
"Oh,
a
okay."
slow close too.
I know.
Slow close.
It reminded me of
like this-
Sloth from the Goonies."
Or the steamroller. Remember, the
Holding the thing
steamroller in Austin Powers when he's like, "No,
Get out of the way!
Yeah, it's a slow close, and it's not like emotionally. There's no emotional drama.
'cause you're
It's
like,
just
what?
like physically
walk
shutting.
out, just go in, it's fine." And he's like, "Nope, it's good. This is where I die. I've seen it. I can't. There's no possible way I
Yeah,
can escape
I
this."
seen it.
Yeah, it just doesn't compute at all.
Right. Well, the party gets split like immediately, and it's Titch and Urgo, which Urgo, being Urgo, defends Titch.
With as a tiger, which is really cool.
Yeah, and we know this. His ability to shapeshift is well established at this point because he turned into the puppy to cheer Titch up after the Emerald Seer died, and this is the most ferocious thing he's turned.
Well,
into.
and the prince, we're your family now.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we're your family.
It's like, we'll take care of you, except
Hey,
you get.
I just
I'll
met
treat
you. We're the
like
fam-
every other member of the group, and
I
then
don't
Titch
give a
sees
fuck about
everybody
you.
else die.
Yeah.
Except if we get in the castle and we get separated. I'm sorry, but you're on your own because
Yeah.
I believe it's been well established. I'm here for Lissa because Torque will get separated and he's like, "Well, y'all are competent. I'm just gonna let you save yourselves."
Yeah.
And Torque will Urgo and Titch
Titch.
get separated, and then he's like, "Well, I'm gonna go find the princess." And so somehow he's able to just get to the center where the princess is.
And then the glaive becomes a drill.
Yeah. He finally pulls out
A saw. It's a
He
saw.
finally pulls out the glaive.
Which is
I
a
was like,
saw.
the
It's a
smallest circumference for a given surface area is a circle,
yeah.
but he cuts
No,
this like
I'm
jagged.
sorry. Did you want reason from Colwyn right now? I didn't. It was
He
late.
didn't- he
We were
didn't
watching
study
this,
geometry.
It's the graceful throw for me.
and then he's just like the hand and the stressed expression.
That's
he's-
the
That's
only
so
choreography
long. It's
that
so
he got
long.
specific
Yeah.
instructions on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Is
then
how
they were
to
like,
throw the glaive.
okay, now smile harder. Because he's smiling. Literally. Like, smile harder.
Yeah, I was like, wow, the glaive's really useful. It's too bad he didn't have that the entire fucking time.
Oh, wait, but he did.
He did. Yeah. I guess there was a scene where he saves Ynir from the web by using the glaive to kill the spider, but they cut it out.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Which,
Well, and Ynir told him at the very beginning,
you'll know when to use it.
you'll know when to
And he's
use
like, how
it.
will I know? And he's like, you'll know. So this is the moment, apparently. So he's using it to saw blade his way into the beast.
yeah, saw
like,
blade. He saws him
center,
away, yeah.
center of power or whatever, which it was really late when we were watching this, and I could not stop making dick jokes. So that forever, that's all I'm going to remember when we watch this. It's like, he got married like 3 days ago, and he didn't get his wedding night. So did he even need the glaive? I was like, he's probably so hard right now, he could just poke a hole in this thing all by himself. And then the wall explodes, and I was like, well, we all know what that was.
Yeah.
Because he's like, he looks like orgasmic when he's using the
No,
glaive
yeah,
to
and
drill through this wall. He's like, and he gets in, and she's like, well, you can't fight him here. This is his center, his core, if you will.
Yeah.
So all of his power is
And, like,
here. We need to
what's
leave.
the choice of making the Swamp Thing beast like really blurry and fuzzy?
I think it's like a that way we never age out of its graphic. It is probably the thinking there is we couldn't make him look realistic if we had too much detail. So if we have a little bit less detail, he stays a little bit more
Okay.
The viewer has to fill in
Sure.
the gaps with their imagination.
Sure.
And that's always a much more effective
Sure.
Yeah.
strategy.
Leave it vague so it seems bigger and more. Yeah. Okay.
And this is the part where he's doing the power stance where I was like, he's definitely tucked because there's no
bulge.
There's no topography. There.
Rachel, you should post a picture of the power stance on the gram
Zoom in.
so that
Those are like the circle.
so that
the zoomed
people
out
know what
part.
you're talking about.
I will. Well, but
Yeah.
if you've seen the movie,
Oh yeah.
you know what I'm talking about. It's the stand. It's his like, this is how I'm acting like a king.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Right,
trying to
he
act
first
right now.
does it in the scene where the band of bandits show up.
Yeah. This
And
is
he's
his
like, I need
like
to impress everybody.
right. He's
Yeah.
trying to
Like Captain
physically
Morgan, like,
evoke.
Yeah. The
He's trying to take it more space.
Go ahead.
Well, he's
'Cause
trying
the
to
bigger
yeah.
space, the more scared the bear's gonna be.
Right. He's trying to evoke like a authority
Yeah.
or like power, confidence, whatever.
Yeah.
And he does that with this like stance, which I'll post a picture and
Yeah.
I'll tag it for you guys.
Thank you.
The power stance. Oh yeah, and this is when he gets the fire because he's like,
You mean the blowtorch?
yeah, because they're on the run and they're like, we're all have ideas because he kills the beast with the glaive, but the glaive gets stuck in the beast.
And he can't
can't-
smile his way out of that
He
one.
can't
Yeah.
it back.
Yeah.
He
No matter how
smiles
hard
so
he
hard.
pulls. Yeah,
He does. He's
And-
like, "Ah!"
and then the beast.
And then he like,
This is why we need a YouTube channel.
yeah.
But
and then
then-
he's like, even squeezing harder, and it won't come.
No.
But it's trying.
Yeah, but it just wasn't.
It's
So,
stuck in the beast's scaly skin.
yeah, it's in his sternum or whatever. So the beast wakes up and they're like, oh shit, I'm out of weapons. And he's like, no, I take the fire from the hand of the woman I choose to be my wife. And she's like, well, I give it to you. And so she opens her hand. And so she had this fire
So
power.
is that when their marriage is official?
Yeah.
When they complete that fire moment?
Yeah, so she had this fire the entire time. I feel the need to point out. And she didn't use it, which I guess she doesn't like this movie. I was reading an interview with her. She's like, no, I'm the damsel in distress the entire movie. I hate it.
But I will say this, though. She's the only female in the movie.
Yeah.
But everybody listens to her, and she is the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
So at least there's that.
Right. Because she gives him the fire, and then he can use this fire like a flamethrower
It's a flamethrower.
all of a sudden.
Straight up flamethrower.
And so he defeats the beast with this fire, and he ends up getting the glaive back. And
does he
everybody's
get the glaive back?
Does he?
I'm
I
pretty
didn't-
sure he
I didn't
does.
see him get it back.
Does
I don't
he not
think he
get it back? Oh, I
does.
thought he did.
I think it blows up into the sky.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking that at the end was, oh,
He
there goes
just
the
stopped.
glaive. Like,
Yeah.
did
Yeah, I
anybody
did
go
too.
back and
I was
get
like,
it?
I was paying attention and watched
Well,
the glaive.
It
and
was too much power for one man to have.
Yeah.
You could saw through anything with that.
Well, and
given
the-
enough time.
And wasn't the glaive's entire purpose to defeat the beast?
It was just an ancient weapon.
Yeah, it was an ancient
That
weapon. Because the beast
should
just
be
showed
used
up.
in
I
its
mean, the
time
beast
of
hasn't
need.
been around that long.
That it came through the sky.
No, because that's why the symbol of his kingdom is the glaive.
Because the glaive's been around for a long time.
But didn't the glaive come from space?
Probably.
in the
lots
beginning-
of things have come from space.
In the beginning, the glaive was floating in space.
Well, I think that's like the owl at the beginning of
Labyrinth.
Labyrinth.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's
Yeah.
just
It's only forever.
I thought you were going to say the owl from Clash of Titans
Not
first,
long
and
at
I was
all.
like, I remember that owl.
No.
Remember the little mechanic? Never mind.
So the party finally gets reunited, which thank God this wasn't a giant castle and we were all lost in it because all of a sudden they're all in the same place.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden they're climbing outside the giant,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden they're on the ground running away,
Yeah,
looking
which-
back.
Thank God this castle didn't appear in like the bottom of the ocean or an Arctic wasteland or anything. They're just in a meadow
Beautiful meadow.
with flowers.
And it's so small, the ending of it.
Yeah.
You know?
They needed to wrap it up. They didn't. We don't even know how Torquil and the guy got out of the room because they were in that room with the spikes where they were all getting impaled slowly on
Well, the
spikes.
spikes stopped impaling simultaneously
Yeah,
when the beast died.
and so then the
That
door
was also
opened.
one of the longest scenes
Yeah.
of all time. It's like the slow
it's
death.
coming so slow.
Yeah, it was like 4 minutes long.
It's
Right,
coming
and they
at
had
the
to, like,
guy's
line
chest, and he's
themselves
just
up with
like,
it.
no.
And it literally physically goes into him, and then in the next scene has not gone
right,
into him.
right, and he's grimacing,
Yeah.
but it hasn't touched him yet.
Yeah.
It's like kids
There's-
getting
and
tickled.
he's just
Yeah.
laying on the ground. There's tons of open space all around him, and he's just like, "Well, I'm done. I can't go
I
anywhere."
can't go
Right, he
anywhere.
could have just turned and gotten up on his hands
Yeah.
and knees.
Yeah,
It would've gone
And he
under.
would have been fine.
yeah. Nope. No, I'm sorry. He doesn't. It just slowly impales him. And then, anyway, but they've escaped from that. And they find Titch and Ergo, who are just, like, Ergo's been wounded and Titch is shaking the stick. And so in this entire space mountain, we hear the bells. And he goes to Titch. And then they get out and the castle blows up. Literally blows up into space. Yeah. And that's it. They're all in the field.
Yeah.
And he unlocks he gives him the...
It reminds me of the way Mistborn ends. The third one, Hero of Ages, you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, they're just in a fucking field.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Just in a field.
Yeah. And he
In the middle
turns
of nowhere.
to Torquil and he gives Torquil the
Manacle keys.
manacle keys. Because
that he wears on his king necklace.
Yes.
Right. And he says,
it's
keep
like,
this.
It's like stuck. It's like clicked into his king necklace.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh no, only the Lord Marshal and the king have these keys. And he's like,
You're right.
You're right. And Torquil's like, oh my God, I'm Lord Marshal.
A promotion.
And I was like, wow, he did not ask Torquil what he did to earn
To be in prison.
To be in prison. Like, Torquil, so what were you in prison for? Oh, you know, I like children. Like,
Like,
really,
I'm a
really like
pedo.
kids.
I think they call it pedophile.
I really like children. Like, oh, okay. You know, I'm going to need my key back.
Well, yeah, because it's his kingdom too. So you're going to hope that he's not like imprisoning people for dumb shit.
Yeah.
Because you know how there's bad kingdoms that do that?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, throw it to glass, it's fine.
Yeah. So that's it. That's the end of the movie.
Yeah. And this movie has,
Well, but hold on. There's a little bit of exposition afterward.
there is?
Yeah,
Oh, yes, there is.
They
It's-
repeat and their son will rule the galaxy.
Oh.
Yeah. In
The-
my
the
mind,
second
I'm like,
reference.
do they have technology that allows them to leave Krull?
That
Magic.
we know of. Just
That's
magic.
what I'm saying, so-
Clearly, there's magic because we have the Widow of the Web, which nobody questions. We have the
Yeah.
Emerald Seer, which nobody questions.
We have the glaive itself.
Which nobody questions.
Right.
So there must be some kind of magic.
We have the
Maybe they have
marriage
portals and
flame
realms.
ceremony.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have some tread troves, and they're just going to open some
There's
portals.
the fire mares.
Exactly. There's
And
the
just
fire
head
mares.
on into the other
fire mares,
planets.
Maybe fire mares can go into space.
Yeah.
I'm wondering why
True.
the fire mares didn't fire mare run away when they were getting chased. If they can like run through the sky
Yeah.
like they did.
Yeah, you would think.
Especially if they were scared
That's why
because
my
a group
mind
of
thought if they're
men were
this
chasing
easy
them.
if they're this easy to catch, there's no way that these beasts aren't
domesticated.
and owned by really, really rich people.
Right.
Right. The king's stables should have had like a whole squad of fire mares.
And the King's Guard rides
Why
them
didn't Colwyn and his group of people ride fire mares to
to
Lys's
start
castle?
so that they could be in the sky and not lose 300 people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Oh
we're-
yeah, we rode our fire mares here, but my army of like 10,000 people, they're on the way. They'll be here in like a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like most of the movies we watch, this isn't that movie. We're not going to get these answers.
Yeah. And
That's not why we're here.
And this movie just hangs, I saw it when I was a little kid and I thought it was really cool because there were things in this movie that you didn't get to see other places.
Yeah.
And this is one of my first memories of a fantasy movie where I was like, oh, wow, I really like that.
Right. If your attention span is only like 2 minutes long and you're just experiencing each scene as this unique thing and you're not keeping up with the overall plot, it's a very entertaining movie. It's
Yeah.
very visually stimulating and there's a lot of stuff happening all the time and yeah.
Yeah, and this comes right in a wave of sword and sorcery movies in the early 80s. We're
Yeah.
getting Lady Hawk, Excalibur, Dragon Slayer, this movie. And of the ones that came out, this is definitely one of the most. You can tell they put money into
This
the
one has a
production of
big
this one.
budget.
Yeah.
And you can see where they put it.
Because, like, Lady Hawk is synthesizer music. I wish somebody would take the Lady Hawk soundtrack and orchestrate it. Like, have an orchestra do it and put it over the movie.
And
Somebody,
re-release it.
please do that. Because it's a great movie. But the music is so horrendously dated. It's
Yeah.
difficult to watch it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this one, you can, like, the London Symphony Orchestra is playing this music.
Yeah, it's James Horner. Like,
Yeah,
it's incredible, and it gives it more credit and validity, because when you're listening to this music, you hear Avatar and Titanic and
Yeah.
Willow
Yes.
and all these other fantastic movies. I mean, the list is, I wrote 12 of them down, and I didn't even write down all of them.
Right.
Like, all of these incredible movies.
It's like Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're just like, okay.
Or what's the other guy? Howard. Who's the Howard guy?
And there's John Williams.
John Williams is who I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
James Horner, John Williams.
Yeah. And they're all, and it's,
John Williams does all the Spielberg movies, right?
yeah.
Okay.
This is one of those movies it's nice to put on in the background when you're doing other stuff. Because you can kind of tune in like, oh, I like this scene.
Yeah.
Oh, what? Okay, now I'm going to go put a load in the dishwasher. I'm going to come back. The Fire Mares will be finished and we'll be on the next part.
Right.
And that's why I enjoy this movie. It's not an emotional investment. It tried to be. It really, really tried to be. But because the main actor isn't having any emotions, it's not emotional.
I really don't understand I feel like there was a trend in this time period where they just chose really shitty actors.
I think they were trying to get unknowns. I think we were trying to discover new people.
Like Highlander? Like,
Yeah.
your boy is not fun to watch.
Christopher Lambert. Yes. And a lot of them never went on to do it again.
Yeah.
Ever. Mark Hamill is really only ever in Star Wars.
Yeah, but Mark Hamill has had a really good career.
Yeah. I'm not
And
saying
he's
he hasn't, but he was
and it-
never a lead in a movie again.
Like
Right.
live
Well,
action.
he also had that accident, and
Yeah.
like I hear
Right.
you.
Yeah.
But he has made a lot. Like
He was in The Guyver.
His well, he's a voice
That's on our
actor
sci-fi
now.
list.
Yeah.
Or
We were talking about Mark Hamill.
actors. Oh, Mark Hamill.
he was
You
in
got to
The
give
Guyver.
him respect though, because his career, even just from Star Wars, has lasted a really long time.
Yeah. He has had a very good career.
And he's still
Yes.
he's a doll, and
I'm not saying he's Ken Marshall.
and it would have been really interesting to see what happened with Mark Hamill if he hadn't had that accident between New Hope and Empire.
yeah.
Because I think that was, it significantly changed his,
Appearance.
It impacted his
like, life.
acting performance.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. And I think people like the Harry Potter kid, he wanted to make sure he didn't end up like Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just can't, I love Mark Hamill, so I can't be like,
I'm not saying that
yeah,
he wasn't
okay,
good.
you better not have been saying that.
No,
Okay, great.
no, I'm just
Right,
saying
like,
that
take it
this-
back. Take everything you said back.
This
Just-
like late 70s to mid 80s. We
Right.
had a lot of movies that
And so they were trying to save money in the budget by hiring unknowns.
and I think they were trying to appeal to the youths. So we were trying to get young, new, fresh faces.
32-year-old actors.
Yes.
Yeah.
That we somehow tried to age down by giving a beard. I'm not that this there's many reasons why this guy was the wrong choice. But
If they had chosen, and that's, I don't know why this is the case, but when you choose British actors, it automatically, what's the word?
Well, 'cause
Elevates.
Elevates.
British
exactly.
movie actors spend so much time doing stage acting.
That they're just automatically better
the
at everything.
kind of standard trajectory. Is,
Right.
So you end up developing a lot more,
Nuance.
yeah.
Ability
like
to show
nuance and
emotional intelligence.
like
Yeah.
situational awareness, like
yeah.
in
Face
with your
acting?
actors.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
where
why-
you have to be really emotive on
Right.
the stage.
Right. But then you just tone it down for a movie, and
Right.
but you
Yeah.
that's why it was so like jarring to see someone like the Alan Armstrong guy like successfully
Kill it.
Yeah. And then you had
He's
Ken
trying to
Marshall.
help Ken Marshall, and Ken Marshall is just not helping.
And
him back.
I almost like in my mind it takes me out because I'm watching these British actors watch him act, and I wonder if in their head they're thinking, "You're fucking terrible.
What am I doing on this set?
What am I doing? Is this do I have to work with this?"
Yeah.
Like it's got to make it hard to do your job when the person across from you is a
Right.
terrible actor.
And they're the lead.
Right,
They're
and it's
playing the lead.
The
right.
playing the
They're
lead.
ostensibly the lead character, but then it's Ynir and Torquil like dragging the plot along.
Yeah. like slapping him in the face, like
And
stop
you're
being a dumbass.
physically, literally dragging the plot along because he's like, now we're going to the next set. Everybody grab
Everybody
your stuff.
come
Hold
along
my
with
hand.
me.
Come
Yeah.
this way.
Yeah.
It's like when you go to preschool and they have the rope and all the kids hold the loops on the rope
Or
to
it's
keep
like
them all together.
you're walking
Yeah.
with your kids through the parking lot into Walmart.
Yeah, and you
it's
gotta hold their hand.
Hold my hand.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is
Because I
dangerous.
need
I
to
don't
keep
want
you
you
on the right
wandering
track.
off.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad. I like this movie.
Yeah.
I still like it. I thought there's a lot of really wonderful things about it. But there's also a lot of things when you're actually watching it where you're like, what the
You can see they were trying so hard. They were trying so hard, but we didn't have a good formula for this yet. So we didn't have a good
And I don't think they knew. I mean,
blueprint.
and there was so much happening with movies at the time with effects.
Yeah.
They had just figured out how to really do some stuff. And so they put more emphasis on that versus the
And this is right after Return of the Jedi.
yeah, because
Like-
it's 83.
Yeah. So we just effectively ended this major space opera. And so we're looking for something to fill this.
Paused.
At the time, we thought we had just ended
Yeah.
this major space drama. And so we're looking for something to fill that gap.
Yeah.
And so you have to find something that is of similar scope. So they were trying to make this world feel really big by having these really big, beautiful
And
sets.
I did read that they were going to try and associate this with Dungeons and Dragons somehow. And it definitely has that campaign feel.
Yeah.
Where it's just like from adventure to fucking adventure.
Yeah.
And
Right.
you roll to see which direction it would go.
Right.
Yeah. Like, which door is going to open? No one knows. Is it going to work? Who knows?
Who knows?
We might get a
Yeah.
hit or a miss.
I
So,
know.
are the
Yeah.
fire mirrors actually going to have fire feet? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think that's about all we need to say about that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they did say Ynir.
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 Yeah. See, did I write that? I did. Ynir. Yeah, there it is. Freddie Jones. He says at another point in the movie, he says, "We seek the Black Forest." So I think from now on, because I love that terminology so much, I'm going to start saying that in my
We seek the whatever.
Yeah, I seek. Like if I ask somebody at a store, like an employee,
seek-
like at Lowe's, I'm gonna be
Yeah.
like, I seek the hardware. I seek the key making. I'm just gonna
I
start.
seek the key maker.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Key
seek
holder.
the bricklayer.
Yeah, I seek the key holder. Yeah. Even though the key holder at Lowe's is electronic.
No, it's fine. You do it
Automatic
anyway.
now?
You're just like, I seek the key holder.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
Or at the grocery store.
Then
That's-
thank you, kind sir. Or
Yeah.
kind
Yeah,
person.
thank you, kind sir. I'm gonna
Yeah.
start doing that. I'm gonna just start trolling everybody in the last 40 years of my life.
Fine. Yeah, go for it. Get some of those like ear things that have the pointed
Jewelry,
ears on
the
them.
jewelry.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm gonna start dressing in Akatar core.
Right.
Yeah.
In rural South. This is going to go. No, you're going to be fine.
No, not at all.
No.
It'll be great. Yeah.
Rewatch. I don't know. I haven't rewatched this in forever.
Me neither.
No, I remember it though. I'm always like, oh, Krull. And when you say
So
Krull,
wait, you didn't watch this?
we watched it.
Oh,
Hey,
okay.
we watched it yesterday.
Okay. Okay. Good.
If
Okay.
you've listened to any of our movie episodes, we usually conclude
I've listened to
with,
2 of them.
have we rewatched it recently? Like, what's our
Oh.
rewatch score? How often?
Oh, like
do
how
we-
rewatchable is it?
how rewatchable
Yeah.
is it? It's rewatchable in like a, it's on, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
Or, but there's not really moments.
I haven't felt the need to.
Yeah,
oh,
you're not
I just
gonna-
need to watch Krull again.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm not gonna, even though I did buy it, it was $4. I'm not gonna, even though I think it's free on Amazon. I'm so stupid.
It's not free on Amazon.
Did you have to pay for it?
I think it has commercials. It's
Oh.
on Freebie.
Oh, okay. Well, I bought it. It was $4. I thought that was worth it. It's not a movie that I'll necessarily like go to watch,
Yeah.
but I do think if we still had channels and it was on
Right,
TV,
like if you were just flicking channels,
I would be
and it
like,
was on.
I would put this on.
You're like, oh, okay, Krull. All right. And
Yeah.
you leave it on.
Oh, I love Krull. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not Tremors. It's not Shawshank.
Right.
Right?
But it's
not Edge of
entertaining.
Tomorrow, which I watched 5 times in 1 week.
It's entertaining and it's easy to come in and out of.
Yeah.
So it's one of those movies. It's like I could sit down at any point, enjoy it, get up, leave, and I'm not going to get lost in the plot because the plot's very linear. It's not nuanced. Nothing. There's no twists at the end.
This is a beloved film for me, though. Like,
Yeah.
it's in that Labyrinth, Dark Crystal, little kid movie
It's
thing.
a formative film.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
nostalgic, super nostalgic.
Right.
And I actually thought it was, like, better than... I was like, this isn't that bad. Just if you forget about those several things.
Right. Because I don't think I've actually sat down and listened to the dialogue in a long time. It's when you sit down and fold laundry while you're watching Krull or whatever.
Right, like you could have this movie on and just be listening to the soundtrack and not the dialogue.
Yeah.
And probably enjoy it just as much.
Yeah, and there's a couple of lines that I was like, okay, that's not bad. Because I know at one point, Torquil, when they first meet him, they're like, well, you could be famous. And he's like, what's fame? I can't eat it.
And fame? Freedom! Well, we have it. And fame? It's an empty purse. Count it. Go broke. Eat it. Go hungry. Seek it and go mad.
That is true. But this
Oh, yeah.
I can't, it won't put a roof
and
over
then
my
you
head.
You get little blurbs that are like, oh, yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Or Hagrid.
Yeah.
He gets a line that's like, the only thing this is going to get me is a dagger in my back and a tombstone over my head.
Rocks in our pockets and gravestones above our heads is all we'll get from this journey.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay.
Right.
There were several where like I was like, oh, okay, that was not bad. Like that line was good. It was well delivered. It didn't fit in with the acting that was happening all around
Right,
it.
every
which is
once in a
probably why
while
you
someone
miss
would
it.
drop a proverb and you'd be like, oh, that was a good line.
Like, oh, that was great. But then, I mean, we're right in the middle of like, we're picking up the merry band of thieves. And literally, this guy has just told this entire group of armed people that he is the king of the country that imprisoned them. But you're going to be my best friends, right? And they're like, oh my God, of course. This could easily have gone the other way. Like, they could have easily have said, sorry, no, we're going to murder you and take that key, free ourselves, and fuck your princess, fuck your country. We're going to go do what we want to do.
Yeah.
Because we're only on the Greenway. Our homes are like a mile away. We literally just hang out. We're in our backyard. This is like our Boy Scout backyard fort. We all get together. We have breakfast at my mom's house. We head out onto the back 40.
My second wife's going to show up at noon. She'll bring lunch.
Yeah. So
And then my fourth wife, she's going to bring dessert after dinner. So we got to make sure this girl's gone before.
Yeah. So this should have been a very emotional scene because he's risking his life telling them that he's the king. But he's like,
But he's just standing there with his leg cocked out.
the
like,
king, and you guys are
hands on
going to
his
follow
hips.
me because I'm the king. And they're like, we are going to follow you because you're the king. But this is when we get several of our very good lines.
Yeah.
But we miss them because they don't fit.
Yeah.
They feel very like, did you know what movie you were in when you delivered that line? Because most of them are by the
Ken
British
Marshall
guys.
didn't know what movie he was in ever.
He's not in much else either.
Yeah.
Like a couple of
obviously.
episodes of stuff. And that's about it.
Yeah. He reminds me of like Chris Evans if he was terrible at acting.
Yeah.
Like he could potentially be, like he was attractive.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I'm going to chalk this up, no offense, to men running companies.
Yeah.
There is nothing about this says, this was like, we need this thing and we need this thing and we need this thing and we need this thing. And nobody said, and I bet the costumes were designed by women. I'm not like pitting, sorry, I need to be better about that. But like, it just feels like they were, they were trying to fit a pattern. And they're
Yeah.
like, let's do this, 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 and this.
This
and
worked before. It should work again. Let's just throw a
Right.
bunch of money at it and it will be
without putting the emphasis on the things that offer the
Right, they probably didn't
emotional
realize
emphasis. And
Yeah.
one of the like fundamental things about Star Wars was the story was coherent and well executed.
And the world
it's
was-
not like
and the world
a super
felt
novel
believable.
story,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's a very
it was
like,
consistent.
It's a very
Yeah.
clear like just iteration on the hero's journey.
like the tone throughout
But
Star Wars
they
for the first
executed it
three.
really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
It's
world is
very
believable.
similar.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you were able to have like your foil or your fool, like your Han Solo type guy.
Yeah.
Who just like everybody highlighted everybody else's stuff versus in this movie Ergo and like Yenrik Ynir were in different movies to
Yeah.
me. It seemed kind of like,
Well,
well,
we
actually,
had-
they kind of like were compatible in a way. But Ken Marshall was like
Right. and
on
I
another
think
fucking level. This
if
isn't
they
a
had
child's
written-
movie. He was
if
like
they
in
had
a
written
kid's
Colwyn's
movie.
character to actually have like emotional revelations
And an
throughout
arc,
the
an
story,
emotional arc,
Yeah.
and some growth.
this movie could have been a lot better.
Yeah, or acting classes, perhaps some choreography, stunt workers versus your actors doing your stunts, so they
Yeah.
have to be very tame and toned down.
Yeah.
I mean, he did climb that mountain. That was cool. I think that was the part that stood out to me the most. I was like, dang.
Yeah. And there's that shirtless scene where he's really ripped, and Matt goes, "Wow, he did a lot of cocaine."
Like, and any time he was just like totally like hyped up, I was like, oh yeah, it's the cocaine.
I mean, maybe.
That's what they
Maybe.
did in the 70s and 80s. It's
Maybe.
like you need a character to like be really trimmed down because you need them to have the right physique.
But if you look at his acting, he is like unnecessarily aggressive.
Yeah.
Like when he wakes up, he's like, what?
Yeah.
Everyone's gone. Like it was very, like if you look at it through, maybe he is
I
on
wouldn't
coke.
be surprised.
It makes way
if
more
he was
sense.
on
Yeah.
Cocaine.
if they were just
Cocaine.
feeding him drugs the whole
All right.
production.
So now that we've solved all the problems of why Ken Marshall is the way he is in this movie.
Is he still alive?
Yeah, I think so.
Wonder what he does now.
I don't know. He's not going to listen to this podcast, so it's fine.
No, he sure won't.
And if he does, do confirm. Are we right on that?
Yeah, no offense, Ken.
No
but
offense. It was fine. It was 40 years ago. You know, it's a different time.
He'd be 70s now.
Yeah. The way we got Judy Garland through Wizard of Oz was by giving her like uppers. So
Really?
yeah, they'd keep her on the set for like days, and then they'd give her medicine to make her sleep, and then they'd wake her up and give her like uppers, and she was only allowed to drink black coffee, eat soup, and smoke cigarettes.
Because she needed to keep the physique.
For fucking Dorothy?
Yeah.
She's a child.
Yeah. And they wanted, but she was like 16, so she was getting breasts, and they didn't want her to. So she had to like bind her chest, and she wasn't allowed to eat because they didn't want her to get any, because they thought she was fat already. They didn't want her to get any bigger. It's horrific. Like if you read the history of the filming of Wizard of Oz and the history of the
The whole
Movie
production.
industry.
movie industry in general.
Yeah, no, I
It's,
know.
There was a big, wasn't there a big actor strike? And that's when they started. That's when they like created one of the first actors unions.
Yeah, the guild. That's why they have
Yeah.
the guild. Yeah.
Yeah, well, remember in The Wizard of Oz, there's supposed to be the ghost that's flailing along in the background because one of the actors hung himself on set. So
I think
they're
that's a urban myth, though.
right, and it's really just a bird
Yeah.
wing. But I watched that. I almost I looked.
And I think a bunch of people died on the set too.
Really?
I don't even think anybody died.
You don't think anybody died?
No, there was a
Okay.
couple. Like, there's the scene where
I know
the
there
witch,
were a lot of accidents.
There's the scene where the witch is like doing the smoke, and she writes like "Surrender, Dorothy" in the smoke, and there's the scene of her on the broom, and the lady had just gotten 3rd-degree burns, so she was like, "You're fucking kidding me! I'm not getting on a bomb, a smoke bomb."
Yeah.
And so they put a stunt actress on it, and it did explode, and like took off part of her leg.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So anyway, that's fun. Go and read about that. But
I mean, I think it was worth it. I mean, it did well.
it was- I mean, it ruined Judy Garland's life. She ended up dying of,
And alcohol,
yeah.
drugs. You think?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, if you're 16 and literally people are telling you to do this,
Yeah.
this is what you have to do to succeed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see how that would be.
They didn't really have support groups or
No.
recognize how traumatizing that stuff
And
was.
it was like medicine. They're like, oh, are you sad? You should probably do some cocaine about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was probably like dextrostat, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. All right.
That's
Well,
wild.
I guess we'll wrap it up here.
Yeah. Thanks for letting me be a guest on your movie show.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to have you. It was a fun chat.
Yeah,
It was
I'm
good.
excited.
I love all your hot takes about the choreography.
Yeah.
I was still kind of mulling over how you felt about it, but
Yeah. And in case someone missed it, I thought the choreography was absolute asshole. To be really clear. Yeah. But it's a great movie.
So remember, sometimes the strangest things are the most beautiful too.
So be who you are and love what you love. Until next time, friends.
Bye.
Goodbye.
You may leave me now. Dear, let me see now.